Chapter 634. When Ning Fan and his group entered Tianyuan City, countless old monsters' gazes swept across Ning Fan's body in the dark. It made Ning Fan feel helpless. It was hard for him to keep a low profile because of the little demoness prank. Now that he was being watched by countless experts of the demon world, he needed to be careful with his words and actions. If his identity as the divine sovereign of the rain world was exposed, there would certainly be a lot of trouble. It was a taboo for a sovereign of a world to sneak into another world. My dear husband, don't be angry. It's my fault for causing you trouble. I promise that if Shirshio comes looking for trouble, I will certainly help you drive him away, okay? The little demoness begged him with all kinds of soft words. She was having fun playing the role of a Tao companion. There's no need. You helped me once and I still owe you a favor. Ning Fan shook his head and sighed. Money could be owed, but a favor should never be owed, especially a favor from the little demoness. Hua Yu and the other female cultivators of the Light Feather clan followed behind Ning Fan respectfully. Each of their eyes were filled with shock. Shirshio's words were shielded by his magical power, so they could not hear it clearly. However, the fact that 4 void fragmentation experts specially went out of the city to meet Ning Fan shocked all of them. Old Ancestor Bai Mu has such a great reputation. He has just arrived in Tianyuan City and he already sent 4 void fragmentation old monsters to welcome him personally. Our Light Feather clan has been in decline for a long time. Void fragmentation old monsters are unreachable existences to our clan. It's really unbelievable that Old Ancestor Bai Mu is acquainted with those old monsters. Old Ancestor Bai Mu is really an incredible person. Just half a month ago, these female cultivators of the Light Feather clan were still afraid of Ning Fan's evil reputation. But at this moment, each of them was filled with admiration for Ning Fan. The female cultivators of the demon race always admired the strong. In their eyes, Ning Fan, who was acquainted with 4 void fragmentation experts, was naturally an expert who hid his strength very deeply. Hua Yu would like to ask what realm Old Ancestor's cultivation base has reached. Hua Yu asked carefully. Even though she was convinced that Ning Fan was a void refinement cultivator, she still did not know what realm he was at. Rumor had it that when Old Ancestor Bai Mu was expelled from the Light Feather clan, he was already at the Void Glimpse stage. Wen Su. With the help of the medicinal power of the appearance-changing pill, he purposely released a trace of Void Inquiry stage aura force at the right time. Under this aura, the painted feather demon infant could not help but tremble, but her pretty face revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Ning Fan's cultivation base was beyond her expectation. However, some of the old monsters who were secretly observing Ning Fan withdrew their spirit sense and muttered to themselves disapprovingly. This young man is just at the Void Inquiry stage, huh? Even though he is acquainted with 4 void fragmentation realm experts, there's nothing to be afraid of. Those who could enter Tianyuan City were all old monsters above the void refinement realm. There were at least several thousand void refinement realm experts participating in the dragon fishing convention. Even dozens of void fragmentation realm old monsters had come. Several of the 10 sovereigns of the demon realm would also be spectating this event. In such a grand scene, if Ning Fan only had a void inquiry stage cultivation base, he naturally would not be worthy of the attention of those old monsters with profound cultivation bases. The information of every old monster that entered the Tianyuan continent would be collected by the demon messengers of the Palace of Yuan and sent back to Tianyuan City. Gradually, some of them obtained Ning Fan's information from the Palace of Origin. As soon as they found out that Ning Fan was actually from the White Feather clan, the number of people paying attention to him became even lesser. The White Feather clan was only an inferior demon clan and wasn't worth mentioning at all. Ning Fan was just a void inquiry stage cultivator and he did not have a strong background. Most likely, he would not get any amazing results in the dragon fishing meeting this time. It was also unknown whether or not he could get a place to participate in the meeting. There were also some old monsters who had heard of Bai Mu from the Light Wing clan thousands of years ago. Whitewood of the Light Feather clan. He's Whitewood. That thief. There were a few Void Refinement Realm old monsters in the city whose wives and daughters were once harmed by Bai Mu. As soon as he heard Ning Fan's name, he naturally vented his anger on him. There were also some who had no grudges with Bai Mu. Initially, they wanted to befriend Ning Fan, but after hearing that Ning Fan was Bai Mu, they gave up on the idea. It couldn't be helped. Bai Mu was notorious for being lecherous and shameless. He wouldn't even let his friend's wife go. But his methods and strength were ordinary. Even some fiendish Dao cultivators kept their distance from Bai Mu. Gradually, no one paid attention to Ning Fan anymore. Even if there were people who occasionally paid attention to him, they would either look at him with disdain or hostility. Ning Fan did not know how much disdain and hostility Bai Mu's notoriety had brought him. Even if he knew, he would not care. The reason why he purposely released his Void Inquiry Stage Qi was to reduce trouble and not attract too much attention. Inside Tianyuan City, there were countless temporary palaces for Void Refinement Realm old monsters to rest. With the Blue Jade token, Ning Fan found a palace that was built beside the Demon River. With the token, he directly moved in and settled the group of female cultivators of the Light Feather clan there. Ning Fan sat alone in the room, looking out of the window while holding a cup of freshly brewed spiritual tea and sipping it. On the pale golden Demon River, one or two pleasure boats would occasionally pass by. In each boat, there were many beautiful virgin cultivators. Most of them were at the Harmonious Spirit Realm or Gold Core Realm. They were singing and dancing gracefully. They were the female cauldrons that the Palace of Origin prepared for the old monsters who entered the city. If any of the old monsters fancied a woman, they could directly take her away and enjoy themselves to the fullest. Ning Fan frowned slightly. He put down the spiritual tea, flicked his sleeves and closed the window, no longer watching those women singing and dancing. In the current cultivation world, the weak could not choose their own fate while the strong could control everything. Ning Fan did not like such an atmosphere in the cultivation world, but he could not change anything. "Husband, if you like any woman, just tell me. I will bring her back for you to enjoy." The little demoness appeared in Ning Fan's room out of nowhere. She looked at Ning Fan with a smile. "There's no need." "Oh. As the successor of Ancient Chaos, it's really strange that you don't like beauties." The little demoness sat beside Ning Fan and casually took Ning Fan's teacup and took a sip. Immediately, a faint rouge mark was left on the edge of the cup. Then, she licked her lips ambiguously and giggled. "Hee hee. It's not a good tea. But this is the one that you have drunk before. If I drink it again, it will have a different taste." The lady's appearance could be said to be peerless. Her bright eyes that were like black gemstones were like a mysterious void, making people unable to see through her real thoughts. "You are not resting in your room but came to find me. What's the matter?" Ning Fan did not believe that the little demoness came to talk about love with him. "I came here to ask husband, do you have the ambition to ascend to the Eastern Heaven? You want to recruit me on behalf of the Godly Void Pavilion and grant me an ascension quota to ascend to the Eastern Heaven?" Ning Fan's eyes slightly froze. This was the second ascension quota he received. Bei Xiaoman gave him one and now, the little demoness also wanted to give him one. If a cultivator broke through the immortal realm, they could ascend. If they relied on their own strength to ascend, they would naturally face many dangers. With the ascension quota, even a spirit-severing cultivator could ascend to the four heavens without any harm. But if they accepted the ascension quota, they would have to join the faction that granted them the quota after ascension. Thus, whether or not to accept the quota needed to be carefully considered. "If I recruit you on behalf of the Godly Void Pavilion, will you go?" "I will consider it, but I might not go." "What if I use the third condition to force you to go?" The little demoness smiled slyly. "I will go. Ning Fan said indifferently. Look at your reluctant face. I won't force you. With your cultivation base, it's very easy for you to break through the immortal realm and ascend on your own. You still owe me the third condition. I won't use it casually. I'll keep it for now. Perhaps it will be useful in the future. The little demonist smiled evilly and continued. The matter of ascension is over. Let's talk about the fishing rod. In 5 days, Tianyuan City will hold a competition to decide the 500 participants of the Dragon Fishing Convention. With your cultivation base, it's easy for you to obtain the quota. But if you want to catch a demonic dragon, you will first need a purple-grade fishing rod, a fishing rod that can catch yin and yang dragons. A demonic dragon with a yin pearl was a yin dragon, while a demonic dragon with a yang pearl was a yang dragon. To participate in the Dragon Fishing Convention, one would need to hold a fishing rod magical treasure specially made by the Primordial Palace in order to catch a dragon soul. Ordinary grade fishing rod magical treasures were sold everywhere in Tianyuan City. However, if one wants to catch a dragon soul of the 3rd grade and above, one would need a specially made purple grade fishing rod that could withstand the impact of a 3rd grade dragon soul. Ning Fan came to Tianyuan City late. All the purple-grade fishing rods in the city had already been bought by countless old monsters. If he wants to buy a purple-grade fishing rod, he would have to order one at the last minute. Purple-grade fishing rods were very expensive. They needed to be mixed with many rare spiritual ores. However, it didn't take much time to make them. They could be made in 3 to 5 days. It wouldn't be too late for Ning Fan to order a purple-grade fishing rod now. Husband, quickly go to the weapon refinement workshop in the city to order a purple-grade fishing rod. Nowadays, there are many old monsters who order purple-grade fishing rods in the city. However, the number of weapon refinement masters is limited. If you're late, you won't be able to order a purple-grade fishing rod and you won't be able to fish the yin-yang dragon pearl. Why didn't you say so earlier? Ning Fan shook his head helplessly. Along the way, the little demoness did not mention anything about ordering a fishing rod at all. She only mentioned it now. It was definitely intentional. Ning Fan originally planned to use the green astral gold and profound yellow crystal to repair the ancient golden sword after resting for a while. Now, it seemed like he had to deal with the fishing rod first. There are a total of 11 weapon refinement workshops in the Jade Slips. All of them have the ability to refine purple-grade fishing rods. You can go and take a look. By the way, purple-grade fishing rods are very expensive. If it's specially ordered, the price is usually 30% higher. If you don't have enough money, you can borrow it from me. You and I are husband and wife. If you ask, I will lend you any amount of money. However, if that's the case, you'll owe me another favor. The little demoness passed a Jade Slips to Ning Fan smilingly. Ning Fan scanned the contents of the Jade Slips with his spirit sense and kept it into his storage pouch. He rubbed his temples, which gave him a headache. Without saying anything, he left the palace. He would not borrow money from the little demoness. He could afford a mere fishing rod. As soon as he got out of the palace, Ning Fan restricted his traveling light to the void inquiry stage and flew towards the weapon refinement workshops. There were only 11 weapon refinement workshops that could refine purple-grade fishing rods. Ning Fan visited 10 weapon refinement workshops in a row, but none of them could order a purple-grade fishing rod. Each weapon refinement workshop only had 6 to 7 weapon refinement masters who could refine purple-grade fishing rods. Since Ning Fan came too late, countless old monsters had already come to order one. If Ning Fan wants to order a purple-grade fishing rod before the dragon fishing meet, he could forget about it. Am I late? Fine. Let's go to the last one. If I really can't order a purple-grade fishing rod, I'll just snatch one. What's so difficult about that? Ning Fan made up his mind. His traveling light flashed and he flew towards the 11th weapon refinement workshop. The last weapon refinement workshop was called Upper 9 Pavilions. It was one of the 3 largest weapon refinement workshops in Tianyuan City. The horizontal board of the weapon refinement workshop was written with golden lacquer. The handwriting was sloppy and there seemed to be a sense of waning interest hidden between the lines. Outside the Upper 9 Pavilions, there was a large group of cultivators. Most of them were nascent Soul Realm and Divine Transformation Realm cultivators. Seeing Ning Fan's traveling light descending, all of the cultivators' expressions changed slightly. Occasionally, some of them would complain in a low voice. Sigh. Another senior who orders a purple-grade fishing rod has come. I wonder if Master can successfully obtain the last fishing rod. Sigh. With that person around, even Master can't compete with him. Even this senior might not be able to compete with him. Another person sighed. Of course, the words of these people could not escape Ning Fan's ears. Ning Fan's eyes flickered slightly. It seemed like there was only one purple-grade fishing rod left in the Upper 9 Pavilions. There seemed to be a few old monsters in the Upper 9 Pavilions fighting for the last fishing rod. Ning Fan had yet to enter the Upper 9 Pavilions but he could already sense 4 to 5 Void Refinement Realm Qi. These low-grade cultivators outside the door should be the disciples of the old monsters in the pavilion. It seems like I have to compete for this fishing rod. Ning Fan smiled and stepped into the Upper 9 Pavilions. There was no Void Fragmentation Realm Qi in the Upper 9 Pavilions. In other words, those who came to compete for the fishing rod were only Void Refinement Realm cultivators. It would not be difficult for him to obtain this fishing rod by bidding for it with immortal jades. At present, he had a total of close to 3 trillion celestial jades on him. A portion of it was obtained from the Vine Palace, and a portion of it was obtained from killing the sect masters of the 3 realms, the Rain Emperor, and the others. He did not think that a few mere Void Refinement Realm cultivators would have more immortal jade than him. If it's a battle of martial arts, Ning Fan was already at the first Refinement Realm. It was impossible for him to lose to a few Void Refinement Realm cultivators. As soon as Ning Fan entered the Upper 9 Pavilions, an old man immediately walked out with a bitter smile and cupped his fists to greet Ning Fan. This elderly man was at the Void Inquiry stage and he was the Pavilion Lord of the 9 Upper Pavilions. The Void Inquiry stage Qi that Ning Fan purposely released naturally could not escape his senses. I am the Pavilion Master of the Upper 9 Pavilions, Audiobook. May I know your name? Are you here to order a purple quality fishing rod from the Upper 9 Pavilions? My name is Bai Mu. This time, I am indeed here for the purple grade fishing rod. Ning Fan cupped his fists to return the greeting. His face was calm, but his heart was slightly surprised. The Pavilion Lord of the 9 Upper Pavilions was a Void Inquiry stage cultivator after all, but his name was Audiobook. Audiobook's name sounded like a servant. As soon as he heard that Ning Fan was here for the fishing rod, the bitter smile on the Pavilion Lord's face became deeper. He sighed and said, "Since fellow Taoist is also here for the purple grade fishing rod, please follow me to the main hall for a chat." To be honest, there are 4 other Void Refinement Realm cultivators in the main hall who have the same purpose as you. All of them are here for the fishing rod. Among them, there is 1 Void Inquiry stage expert, 2 Void Pure stage experts and the last one is Guiyuan Taishu. Is that so? Ning Fan casually answered and followed the Pavilion Lord into the main hall. His expression was calm and indifferent. If he were to compete for the fishing rod with the 4 Void Fragmentation Realm old monsters, he would have to expend some effort. However, if he were to compete with a few Void Refinement Realm cultivators, it would certainly not be difficult at all. The Pavilion Lord was inwardly surprised. He deliberately revealed the cultivation bases of the 4 old monsters who were competing for the fishing rod to Ning Fan because he wanted Ning Fan to know the difficulty and back off. 3 of the 4 Void Refinement Realm old monsters who were competing for the fishing rod had higher cultivation bases than Ning Fan. From the Pavilion Lord's point of view, if Ning Fan knew that Guiyuan Taishu would participate in the competition for the fishing rod this time, even if he did not retreat in fear on the spot, his expression would certainly change slightly. After all, Ning Fan was just a void inquiry stage cultivator. He could not afford to offend Guiyuan Taishu. Normally, he would not dare to compete with Guiyuan Taishu. What surprised the pavilion lord was Ning Fan's indifferent attitude. It was as if Guiyuan Taishu was nothing to him. If it isn't because this young man has a strong background and he is not afraid of Guiyuan Taishu, he must be extremely cunning and does not show his emotions on his face. However, I don't think that this young man can compete with this Guiyuan Taishu. After all, this Guiyuan Taishu also has a strong background. The pavilion lord sighed softly. This Guiyuan Taishu was the disciple of the strongest expert among the 10 great demon sovereigns of this generation, the ape sovereign. In terms of background, what kind of background could compete with the background of a demon sovereign? Ning Fan, of course, did not know what the elderly man was thinking. He followed the elderly man and walked to the main hall after turning left and right. Before they stepped into the main hall, a cold and stern voice of a young man suddenly resounded from inside the hall. It formed a wave of aura force that contained boundless battle intent, rushing towards Ning Fan and the 9 pavilion lords. Oh! Another fellow Taoist has come to compete for this purple-grade fishing rod, huh? That oppressive aura force contained overwhelming battle intent. It even contained the aura force of the Guiyuan realm, which seemed to be able to crush anyone's battle intent. The expressions of the 9 pavilion lords changed. Under that aura force, they hurriedly took a few steps back. Their faces were already flushed and their chi was in a mess. Ning Fan's eyes narrowed. He seemed to be able to see a giant claw of battle intent hidden within that invisible aura force storm. That giant claw could crush anyone's battle intent and make them retreat without putting up a fight. It was a mysterious ability. But that was all there was to it. Ning Fan did not stop walking. He continued moving forward as if he was not affected by the aura force at all. When that invisible claw of battle intent reached his chest, Ning Fan's eyes suddenly turned cold. He raised his hand and flicked his sleeve. All of a sudden, the claw of battle intent was shattered. Immediately, a muffled groan of a young man came from the main hall. The eyes of the 9 pavilion lords were filled with shock. They naturally could not imagine that Ning Fan, who was just at the void inquiry stage, was able to block the divine ability and secret technique of the ape sovereign's follower. Ning Fan did not say much and just walked into the main hall. At this moment, there were 4 void refinement realm cultivators sitting in the main hall. One of them was an old man in purple robes who was at the void inquiry stage, one was a burly middle-aged man who was at the void pierce stage, one was a beautiful woman who was at the void pierce stage, and the last one was a young man in a beast robe who was at the Guiyuan Taishu realm. At this moment, the young man's face was flushed. He was holding his chest with a gloomy expression. When he saw Ning Fan entering the hall, he immediately said coldly, "I didn't expect that a mere void inquiry stage like you could actually break my divine ability of battle intent. Humph. Are you here to fight for the fishing rod too?" Chapter 635. The eyes of the 4 people in the hall instantly focused on Ning Fan's body. The eyes of the beast-robed young man were filled with cold intent. The other 3 void refinement realm experts, on the other hand, were all shocked. Their hearts were filled with monstrous waves. Who exactly is this person, and what abilities does he have? He actually managed to block Yuan Tong's battle intent attack with his void inquiry stage cultivation base. According to the knowledge of the 3 of them, the young man in beast robe was called Yuan Tong, and he was the disciple of the ape emperor with a cultivation at the origin returning void realm. A single strike of his battle intent was something that few cultivators of the same cultivation could resist. However, Ning Fan was able to block it with just his void inquiry stage cultivation base. It was really unbelievable. Ning Fan's eyes scanned across the main hall. When he saw the 4 Void Refinement Realm experts in the hall, he did not say anything. Behind him, the master of the upper 9 pavilion calmed himself down, followed them in, and said to the crowd, "This is fellow cultivator Bai Mu. This time, he came to our pavilion for the same purpose as all of you, for the purple quality fishing rod. White wood." This time, everyone's expression changed slightly, including the beast-robed young man. Bai Mu of the Light Feather clan was a void inquiry stage expert. When he entered Heaven Primordial City, he was welcomed by 4 Void Fragmentation Realm cultivators, which attracted the attention of many old monsters. However, after that, someone found out that this Bai Mu was born in the Light Feather clan, a demon race at the end of the current generation. Thousands of years ago, he was infamous for his viciousness. Due to his low strength, he was once chased by a half-step Void Refinement Realm cultivator for a whole year and he did not even have the strength to fight back. Then, he was expelled from the clan and became a laughing stock. No one knew whether Ning Fan was infamous or not. However, none of them believed that Ning Fan's strength was weak. It was especially so for the young man in beast robes. His battle-intent divine ability was extraordinary. Few people at the same level as him could break it. However, Ning Fan broke it with just a raise of his hand. The young man in beast robes was certain that Ning Fan's strength was not weak at all. Instead, he was extremely strong and should not be underestimated. However, it was just not to be underestimated. It was not worthy of the beast-robed young man's attention. He was Yuan Tong, the dignified disciple of the Ape Sovereign. His talent was enough to enter the top 3 of the Ape Hall. Among the young geniuses of the beast world, he was a famous character. Naturally, he would not put Ning Fan, who was a nobody, in his eyes. Yuan Tong placed his palm on his storage pouch. He wanted to take out some magical treasures to teach Ning Fan a lesson to avenge his divine ability. At this moment, the upper 9 pavilion master coughed softly and said with a slightly displeased expression, "Fellow Taoist Yuan, this is Tianyuan City. This is the Dragon Fishing Convention, and the old primitive emperor has ordered that private fights are not allowed in Tianyuan City. Anyone who disobeys will be killed." Hearing that, Yuan Tong's face changed slightly. He realized that this was Palace Yuan's territory and it wasn't his territory. Hence, it wasn't appropriate for him to make a move. 10,000 years ago, there was once an old monster who was at the 4th heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm who thought that he had a profound cultivation base and killed a few people in Tianyuan City. As a result, he was killed by the old primitive emperor in the city the next day. His corpse was hung on the city gate and it shocked the entire demon world. For nearly 1,000 years, the old primitive emperor rarely showed his face. It was said that he had obtained a rare treasure, and with the power of the treasure, he was trying his best to break through to the life-immortal realm. As long as the old Yuan emperor was in charge of the Yuan palace, even Yuan Tong wouldn't dare to ignore the old Yuan emperor's prestige and act recklessly in Tianyuan City. Yuan Tong retracted the cold light in his eyes and did not look at Ning Fan again, as if he had forgotten the unhappiness he had just now. Ning Fan also ignored Yuan Tong. He chose a seat and sat down. Then, he cupped his fists towards the 3 Void Refinement Realm cultivators beside him. Inwardly, he began to ponder. Ning Fan had observed countless people. With just a glance at Yuan Tong, he knew that he must be an outstanding junior of some great force. This person might seem arrogant and unruly, but as soon as he heard that the old Yuan emperor forbade private fights in the city, he immediately stopped. The ferocious might of the old Yuan emperor is really terrifying. At first, Ning Fan was thinking that if he couldn't get his hands on the last fishing rod, he would snatch one in the city. But now, it seemed like snatching the fishing rod was something that he absolutely could not do. Once he does it, he would certainly anger the old Yuan emperor. Since Ning Fan had the means to protect himself, he might not be killed by the old Yuan emperor. However, it would be impossible for him to participate in the dragon fishing meet under the nose of Palace Yuan. All private fights are forbidden in Tianyuan City. In that case, I must get my hands on the last fishing rod of the upper 9 pavilions. Ning Fan pondered and said. The elderly man, the burly man and the beautiful lady had witnessed Ning Fan's capabilities. Thus, they naturally did not dare to be disrespectful. Similarly, they cupped their fists and politely returned his greeting. Seeing that the battle had been resolved, the upper 9 pavilion masters heaved a sigh of relief and said. Including fellow Taoist Bai, there are a total of 5 Taoists here. Who should I sell the last purple grade fishing rod to is really giving me a headache, pavilion master, you don't have to be troubled. In a transaction, the one who offers the highest price will get it. Among the 5 of us, the one who offers the highest price will naturally get the last fishing rod. Yuan Tong smiled confidently. He had a total of 3 billion immortal jade with him. All of them were given to him by his master, the ape sovereign. The market price of a purple-grade fishing rod was around 100 million immortal jade. Even though it would be slightly more expensive to order it, it would not exceed 200 million. An ordinary void refinement realm expert who has hundreds of millions of immortal jade would be considered a wealthy person. After all, cultivation was too costly. Yuan Tong firmly believed that he would not lose to anyone at the scene if he were to compete with immortal jade. Of course, he did not know that Ning Fan had 3 trillion immortal jade. His wealth was enough to rival the entire ape palace. We agree with fellow Taoist Yuan's opinion. In a transaction, the one who offers the highest price will get it. The elderly man, the burly man and the beautiful lady smiled confidently. The 3 of them had a lot of immortal jade with them. Each of them had 700 to 800 million immortal jade. What they did not know was that their measly immortal jade was not even a fraction of Ning Fan's immortal jade. I have no objection. The one who offers the highest price will get it. It's only right and proper. Ning Fan said indifferently. All right. Since all of you have the same opinion, I won't say anything more. The last fishing rod will be refined by the most outstanding tool refinement master of our pavilion. This tool refinement master rarely makes a move. However, the purple grade fishing rod that she refines is definitely the strongest fishing rod in Tianyuan City. It can even catch the legendary Yin Dragon and Yang Dragon. However, the price will naturally not be cheap. The upper 9 pavilion master smiled bitterly and continued. The price of the purple grade fishing rod that she refines will cost 500 million immortal jade. Besides, she has an additional condition. Only by agreeing to this condition will she agree to refine the fishing rod for you. Fellow Taoists, please bid higher than the base price of 500 million immortal jade. The tool refinement master will refine the purple grade fishing rod for whoever offers the highest price. As soon as he said that, the expressions of the 4 void refinement realm experts including the beast-robed young man changed. 500 million immortal jade. It's too expensive. Besides, if we want to ask this person to refine the fishing rod for us, we actually have to agree to her condition. This is just too ridiculous. There are countless weapon refinement workshops in Tianyuan City but none of them have ever asked for additional conditions. The upper 9 pavilion master left the last quota for us to bid for. It seems like he has the intention to raise the price. He said that the last fishing rod can be used to catch the Yin Dragon and Yang Dragon. It has been millions of years since anyone managed to catch the legendary dragon souls. Now, it is unknown whether there are still Yin Dragon and Yang Dragon in the dragon raising pond. What's the use of such a good fishing rod? Even though the dragon raising pond could raise dragons, cultivators could not enter the water. The water of the dragon raising pond was mixed with the realm breaking light. Even rogue demons would die if they entered the water. Only the dragon souls that were raised using secret techniques could survive in the pond. No one knew how many dragon souls there were in the dragon raising pond. No one knew whether there were Yin Dragon and Yang Dragon in the pond. The void inquiry stage old man took the lead and said farewell to the upper 9 pavilion master in displeasure. Then, he directly left without staying any longer. He did not plan to bid for this purple-grade fishing rod anymore. He was just a void inquiry stage cultivator. He might not be able to get a quota for the dragon fishing convention 5 days later. If he failed to get a quota in the end, it would be really unwise to buy such an expensive fishing rod. It would be better for him to buy a random fishing rod and fight for a quota for the dragon fishing convention calmly. The upper 9 pavilion master smiled bitterly when he saw an old monster leave after bidding the price of 500 million immortal jade. The price was indeed a little high. However, it was the price set by his mistress. He had no right to change it. The upper 9 pavilion master glanced at the 4 people at the scene. The void pierce stage burly man and the beautiful woman did not leave. They gritted their teeth slightly and made up their minds. Even if they knew that the fishing rod was expensive, they still had to fight for it. Yuan Tong's eyes turned slightly serious. Gradually, he put away his astonished expression. 500 million immortal jade was indeed very expensive. However, he could still afford it. He just did not know what other conditions that the master blacksmith had added. Ning Fan's expression was as calm as an ancient well. He was the only one who was not shocked by the high price of 500 million immortal jade. Ning Fan never had the concept of money. To him, money was snatched from others and not earned. No matter how much money he spends, he would not feel any heartache. May I know what the master blacksmith has added? Ning Fan asked the upper 9 pavilion master. That master blacksmith has a request. If you buy her fishing rod and manage to catch a yin dragon and a yang dragon, you must lend her 2 dragon pearls. The upper 9 pavilion master answered. This condition is not too much. The burly man and the beautiful woman nodded their heads. Yuan Tong also heaved a sigh of relief. It was more than just not too much. In the eyes of the 3 of them, there was no difference whether this condition was mentioned or not. Who could catch a yin dragon and a yang dragon that no one had managed to catch for millions of years? Ning Fan frowned but he did not say anything else. The reason he came here this time was for the yin-yang dragon pearls. If he really manages to catch a yin-yang dragon pearl, he would have to lend it to the master blacksmith. In that case, there would be some more twists and turns. However, since this master blacksmith was so obsessed with the yin dragon and yang dragon, the fishing rod that she refined might be helpful in catching the yin dragon and the yang dragon. Fellow Taoists, if you don't have any other questions, you may bid now. I'm willing to bid 530 million immortal jade. The middle-aged burly man was the first to speak. He. I'm willing to bid 550 million immortal jade. The beautiful woman smiled with a seductive smile. 560 million. 570 million, 600 million. The burly man's eyes flashed with ferocity and shouted the price that made his heart ache. The beautiful woman gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. She wanted to bid again but eventually, she sighed and gave up. She smiled bitterly and said, I give up. Seeing that the beautiful woman gave up, the burly man's expression relaxed. He looked at Yuan Tong and Ning Fan. His forehead was covered with sweat. Fellow Taoists, are you not going to bid? The burly man asked nervously. 700 million. Yuan Tong revealed a confident smile. As soon as he heard the high price, the burly man's face immediately turned pale. However, he gritted his teeth and said stubbornly, 710 million, just as his voice fell, Yuan Tong said again 800 million. The burly man became silent. He was not far away from breaking through to the absolute void stage. To him, the dragon fishing convention that was held once every 1,000 years was the best opportunity to do so. If he had a purple-grade fishing rod and caught a few high-grade dragon souls, it would not be too difficult for him to break through to the absolute void stage. If he was lucky enough to catch a first-grade dragon soul which contained a dragon pearl, he would have a great chance to break through to the absolute void stage in this lifetime. For this glimmer of hope, he was willing to take a gamble. 810 million, before he could finish his words, Yuan Tong sneered. 900 million. As soon as the price was announced, the burly man stood up abruptly and looked at Yuan Tong in disbelief as if he could not believe that Yuan Tong would bid such a high price. Then, as if he had lost all of his strength, he fell back onto the chair and said in despair, "Fine. I give up. I'm not going to bid for this fishing rod anymore." Not only did he give up on the fishing rod, but his confidence to break through to the great Tao was also crushed by Yuan Tong. The beautiful woman lost the bid, but her Tao heart was not damaged. Since the burly man lost the bid, his Tao heart was cracked and he lost the confidence to break through to a higher cultivation realm. It would be difficult for him to break through to the absolute void stage in this lifetime. 900 million immortal jade. This disciple of the ape sovereign is really generous. What a ruthless scheme. The eyes of the upper 9 pavilion lords were filled with shock. Each of Yuan Tong's words contained his battle intent ability. He used the price of 900 million immortal jade to destroy the Tao heart of the void pure stage burly man step by step. Not only did he win the bid, but he also left a shadow in the middle-aged burly man's Tao heart that he would never be able to erase for the rest of his life. This man is really ruthless. Fellow Taoist Bai, aren't you going to bid? Yuan Tong glanced at Ning Fan arrogantly with a hint of provocation. He was trying to arouse Ning Fan's battle intent first before destroying his Tao heart step by step. The battle intent ability of the ape hall could attack a cultivator's Tao heart and cause it to collapse. Ning Fan inadvertently glanced at Yuan Tong and his eyes narrowed slightly. It was a decent battle intent ability, but it was useless against him. On the contrary, he could do the opposite and destroy Yuan Tong's battle intent and confidence step by step. 910 million. Ning Fan imitated the void pure stage burly man and only increased the price by 10 million immortal jade. 1 billion. Yuan Tong sneered. 1 billion. Ning Fan's expression remained unchanged. 2 billion. 21 billion. 5 billion. Yuan Tong glanced at Ning Fan confidently. From his point of view, the reason why he raised the price step by step was to give Ning Fan a feeling that he was unsurpassable and invincible. He, Yuan Tong, was unsurpassable and undefeatable. Once Ning Fan has this kind of mentality, even if it is just a trace of it, Yuan Tong could still destroy Ning Fan's Tao heart in a single move with the battle intent ability in his words, causing his Tao heart to collapse. At this moment, this young man's face should be as pale as dead ashes, just like that burly man. Yuan Tong tried to find a trace of dejection on Ning Fan's face, but he realized that his face was still as calm as an ancient well. There was no trace of emotion at all. 51 billion. Then, Ning Fan still only increased the price by 10 million immortal jade. His behavior was silently mocking Yuan Tong. 6 billion. Yuan Tong's eyes turned grim. The firmness of Ning Fan's Tao heart was out of his expectation. It was hard to destroy it. The price had already been raised to 6 billion. Even with Yuan Tong's wealth, he found it a little hard to bear. He did not dare to raise the price by a few 100 million immortal jade at once. It was too much of a loss to spend such a huge amount of immortal jade on a mere purple-grade fishing rod. 61 billion. Ning Fan's voice was still emotionless. 7 billion. 71 billion. 8 billion. 81 billion. Ning Fan continued to raise the price by 10 million immortal jade. Yuan Tong was purposely raising the price to give others a feeling that he was undefeatable. From this perspective, he wanted to crush his opponent's Tao heart. Ning Fan, on the other hand, followed closely behind and approached his prey at a leisurely pace. When he reached Yuan Tong's limit, he defeated him in one go. Beads of sweat gradually appeared on Yuan Tong's forehead. He had already raised the price to 2.7 billion immortal jade. However, Ning Fan still slightly opened his mouth and raised the price to 2.71 billion immortal jade. He did it on purpose. This young man must be doing it on purpose. He obviously has countless immortal jade on him, but he insisted on increasing the price by 10 million immortal jade. He purposely gave Yuan Tong an invisible pressure, damn it. If I bid 2.8 billion immortal jade, will this young man add another 10 million immortal jade? When this thought flashed across Yuan Tong's mind, his expression immediately changed. How is this possible? I am the dignified Yuan Tong. How could I feel a lack of confidence in front of Ning Fan? To Yuan Tong, having a lack of confidence was extremely fatal. The battle intent divine ability that he cultivated required the cultivator to have an inextinguishable battle intent. It required the cultivator to have the confidence and courage to challenge the experts in the world. If his confidence crumbles, his Tao heart will crack and there will be endless troubles in the future. To Yuan Tong's shock, he realized that he was unknowingly guided by Ning Fan in this bidding. Originally, he would never bid 2.7 billion immortal jade. However, Ning Fan purposely suppressed his opponent's desire to win and followed up slowly. He was preparing to crush Yuan Tong's Tao heart at the last moment. That was close. I almost fell for this kid's scheme. This young man might not have 2.7 billion immortal jade on him, but he definitely has the intention to destroy my Tao heart. I am the disciple of the ape sovereign. I only have 3 billion immortal jade on me. What ability does this young man have to be compared to me? Yuan Tong's eyes turned serious. He suddenly rose to his feet and stared at Ning Fan with a cold expression. Then, he suddenly patted his storage pouch and pointed outside the hall. All of a sudden, a mountain of immortal jade appeared outside the hall. There was a total of 2.8 billion immortal jade. 2.8 billion. He shouted the price and took out the immortal jade in front of Yuan Tong. He turned his head to look at the upper 9 pavilion masters and said, I suspect that Bai Mu is purposely raising the price so that I will buy the fishing rod at a high price. I don't believe that he has 2.7 billion immortal jade. At this moment, the upper 9 pavilion masters were already extremely shocked. The burly man and the beautiful woman were also breathing rapidly. They were so shocked that they could not speak a word. A fishing rod that was worth 100 million immortal jade in the market had actually been raised to 2.8 billion by Ning Fan and Yuan Tong. If this matter is spread out, Tianyuan City would have another topic to talk about during their leisure time. Before the upper 9 pavilion masters could speak, Ning Fan nodded with a smile. Fellow Taoist Yuan is right. If I don't show them the immortal jade, it would give them the illusion that I'm purposely raising the price. 2.81 billion. As expected, Ning Fan added another 10 million immortal jade. He also patted his storage pouch and raised his hand to point outside the hall. Immediately, a mountain of immortal jade appeared outside the hall. There was a total of 2.81 billion immortal jade. What? This young man really has so many immortal jade? Yuan Tong's heart shuddered. As the disciple of the ape sovereign, he always had a sense of superiority. This sense of superiority had increased his confidence to a certain extent and raised his battle heart that was not afraid of strong enemies. However, at this moment, he realized that his identity as the disciple of the ape sovereign was nothing special at all. This Bai Mu who came out of nowhere actually possessed a huge amount of wealth that was not any weaker than his. If that was the case, what was his usual arrogance and conceit worth? After being stunned for a moment, he actually did not continue bidding. It was as if he had already admitted defeat. At this moment, a crack appeared on Yuan Tong's Tao heart. It was just a tiny crack. If it can be mended in time, it could still be repaired. However, Ning Fan was not prepared to give Yuan Tong the chance to mend his Dao heart. Currently, he was in Tianyuan City. Due to the prestige of the old Yuan sovereign, he could not kill Yuan Tong. However, it did not mean that Ning Fan could tolerate Yuan Tong's intention to harm him. Since Yuan Tong wanted to destroy Ning Fan's Dao heart, Ning Fan would not hesitate to give him a taste of his own medicine. "Oh, fellow Daoist Yuan, are you not going to bid anymore? Why don't you let me bid for you?" 9 billion. Ning Fan raised his hand and took out 90 million immortal jade and threw it outside the hall. He had intentionally raised the price. Yuan Tong's eyes widened. He did not expect that Ning Fan would continue to raise the price after snatching the fishing rod. 3 billion. Ning Fan threw out another 100 million immortal jade. Yuan Tong's face turned pale. 3 billion immortal jade was already his base price. He could not win against Ning Fan at all. Ning Fan observed every single expression on Yuan Tong's face. He could vaguely tell that 3 billion immortal jade was Yuan Tong's entire wealth. In that case, he could destroy Yuan Tong's Dao heart in one go. 4 billion, 5 billion. 7 billion, 9 billion. 10 billion. Ning Fan raised the price 5 times in a row and threw out 5 immortal jade. In just an instant, the price of the purple-grade fishing rod was raised to 10 billion. Looking at the immortal jade outside the hall that was as tall as a mountain, Yuan Tong felt an unprecedented sense of defeat and coughed out a mouthful of blood. 10 billion immortal jade. That was 10 billion immortal jade. Even his master, the ape sovereign, would definitely not be willing to throw 10 billion in one go. This man's wealth was so strong that he could not be compared to him. Yuan Tong had admitted defeat. This meant that the undefeatable battle intent that he had cultivated for his entire life had crumbled in an instant. Those who wanted to fight would never admit defeat and admit defeat. Once they lose their confidence, they would no longer have the courage to challenge the other experts and the determination to attain the great Tao. The burly man and the beautiful lady were stunned. 10 billion immortal jade was something that they could never imagine. The upper 9 pavilion lord gave Ning Fan a deep look. In an instant, he was certain that Ning Fan was a ruthless person that he could not afford to offend. Yuan Tong wanted to destroy his Dao heart. Thus, he would do the opposite and destroy Yuan Tong. By Mu, I will remember this. Humph. Yuan Tong forcefully swallowed the blood in his throat and gritted his teeth. Then, he turned into a ray of light and left in a hurry. His Dao heart had already been destroyed. He must immediately look for his master. Perhaps, there might still be a chance for him to recover. As he left in a hurry, he did not even have the time to bring the 8 billion immortal jade with him. The burly man looked at Ning Fan with gratitude and cupped his fists to salute him. Then, he left. The bidding had already ended. It was meaningless for him to stay here any longer. Yuan Tong had destroyed his Dao heart while Ning Fan had indirectly avenged him by destroying Yuan Tong's Dao heart. Of course, he was grateful to Ning Fan. The beautiful lady also had no intention of staying here any longer. She bid farewell and left. What happened today had given her a huge shock. A bidding war was even more thrilling than a battle of life and death. The killing was done without anyone noticing. The purple-grade fishing rod is now mine. 5 days later, I will go to the upper 9 pavilions to get the rod. Ning Fan rose to his feet and cupped his fists at the upper 9 pavilion lord. Then, he was about to leave. However, he still had a calm expression on his face. To him, 10 billion immortal jade was just a drop in the ocean. It was not worth mentioning. Fellow Daoist, please wait. If my mistress wants to forge a fishing rod for you, she will need to tailor-make it. Thus, she needs to meet you. Fellow Daoist, please follow me to meet my mistress. Don't worry. It won't take too much of your time. Your mistress. Ning Fan was stunned and stopped in his tracks. He did not know that the last remaining weapon refinement master of the upper 9 pavilions was the person whom the dignified pavilion lord treated as his mistress. One should know that the pavilion lord of the upper 9 pavilions was a cultivator of the Origin Palace. All the cultivators of the Origin Palace could only have one master, and that was the primitive emperor. The mistress that he mentioned could only be the relative of the primitive emperor. That's right. Even though I am the pavilion lord of the upper 9 pavilions, the one who makes decisions in the upper 9 pavilions is my mistress, Xian. Chapter 636. Miss Purple Heart. Ning Fan's eyes flickered slightly. Without saying anything, he followed behind the upper 9 pavilion masters and walked towards the inner palace. The primitive emperors of the Hall of Origin were all surnamed Tan. The old primitive emperor's name was Tan Tianyan, so this Miss Zixin should be called Tan Zixin. Unexpectedly, the person behind the upper 9 pavilions was actually an important figure in Yuan Palace. The upper 9 pavilion masters collected all the immortal jades outside the hall. They were still in shock. He led Ning Fan through the halls and pavilions. Along the way, he briefly told Ning Fan about Yuan Tong's identity. Now that Ning Fan was also considered as a distinguished guest of the upper 9 pavilions, he would certainly entertain him well. Of course, he would also inform him of some information. After hearing that Yuan Tong was the disciple of the ape sovereign, Ning Fan just nodded his head without much emotion. The ape king's physical body could shatter 7, but it was still not a match for the rogue devil. Even if the rogue devil could only attack once more, Ning Fan was not afraid of the ape sovereign. Seeing that Ning Fan was not afraid of Yuan Tong's background, the master of the 9 upper pavilions was greatly surprised. However, he did not ask much and continued to lead the way. Behind the inner hall was an entire refining workshop with countless furnaces and forging tables. As soon as they saw the 9 upper pavilion lords and Ning Fan, all of them stopped what they were doing and saluted them respectfully. At the back of the workshop, there was an independent refining room. Inside the refining room, a young girl in a light purple strapless dress was standing in front of the forging table. She was swinging a golden hammer that was even bigger than her body and smashing it down heavily. The girl had a thin ponytail and a purple and white scarf wrapped around her head. Her fringe was wet with sweat and stuck to the corner of her forehead. Her eyebrows were thin and long, and her face was devoid of makeup. She was as calm as the moon. Her cultivation base was already at the peak of the divine transformation realm, not far away from the void refinement realm. Her plain face was covered in dust, but it couldn't hide her beauty. She wore a light purple headscarf, and her eyes were focused on the flying sword she was forging. At this moment it was as if the entire world had come to a standstill, leaving only her and the flying sword in front of her. She seemed to have fallen into a state of oblivion. The upper 9 pavilion lords made a shushing gesture at Ning Fan and stood respectfully at one side, waiting for the young lady to finish her refinement. Ning Fan did not say anything to disturb her. Instead, he looked at the purple-robed young lady quietly. This was the first time he had seen such a focused gaze. It had a captivating charm. The flying sword that the young lady forged was a high-grade mortal void realm flying sword. It could be used by void pierce stage cultivators. The girl's refining technique was extraordinary, and the flying sword was refined to an extremely high level. The forging of this treasure had reached the final stage. The young girl suddenly felt dizzy, as if she had thought of the knot in her heart that was difficult to resolve. Because of this distraction, the golden hammer, which was supposed to be smashing down, paused in the air and slowed down by half a beat. Crack! With this distraction, a hair-thin crack appeared on the originally perfect flying sword. The young girl was startled. She put down the golden hammer and stroked the scorching hot sword without saying a word. This crack could be repaired, but even if it was repaired, it would not be perfect. What a pity! With a wave of her hand, the girl threw the half-finished flying sword into an iron frame at the side. Within the iron frame, there were already quite a few magic treasures of decent quality lying there. They were all failed products that the young girl was dissatisfied with. In the past, she wouldn't be distracted during refining, but now, Grandpa. If it wasn't because of me, he wouldn't have hurt his demon soul at that critical moment. It's all my fault. At this moment, there was a hint of regret in the young girl's eyes. This regret was very similar to the Tao connotation in the horizontal board of the upper 9 pavilions. Ning Fan could not help but recall the name of the upper 9 pavilions. The two words upper 9 had a meaning. According to the hexagram of the Book of Changes, the upper 9 pavilions, the proud dragon has regrets. This girl might have some regrets in her heart. Ning Fan guessed. The young girl remained silent for a while. Then, she took out a purple handkerchief and wiped the dust and sweat on her face. She turned her head and suddenly realized that the master of the upper 9 pavilions and Ning Fan were also here. She was surprised. Ah Jiu. Why are you here? This is. The young girl looked at Ning Fan doubtfully, indicating that she did not know him. He is the person who came to order a purple-grade fishing rod from Mississippi. His name is Bai Mu. Oh. Are you here for the purple-grade fishing rod? The young girl's eyes suddenly turned serious as she stared at Ning Fan. Even though her cultivation base had yet to reach the void refinement realm, her spirit sense was extremely strong and had already reached the void inquiry stage. She could sense Ning Fan's void inquiry stage qi. Even though his qi was not strong, it was overly concentrated and reserved. Ning Fan seemed to be somewhat extraordinary. He was not an ordinary void inquiry stage expert. If he was strong enough, he would have a high chance of winning the dragon fishing convention. If he could participate in the dragon fishing convention and had his own fishing rod, he might be able to catch yin dragons and yang dragons, Bai Mu, right? Since you're here, you should have already agreed to my conditions, right? If I manage to fish out the yin dragon and yang dragon, I will have to borrow the 2 dragon pearls. Of course, no one has fished out a yin dragon or yang dragon for millions of years. You probably won't be able to catch one. I'm just saying it casually. The girl's voice was very pleasant to listen to, like pearls falling on a jade plate, making it unforgettable. If I may be so bold as to ask Miss Zixin, what do you want to use the yin-yang dragon pearl for? Ning Fan suddenly asked. This question caused the young lady to be a little startled. Why would Ning Fan care about this? He had the confidence to fish up the yin dragon and the yang dragon, so he was interested in her purpose of borrowing the dragon pearl. I have my reasons, and I can't tell you for now. However, you don't have to worry. Even if you manage to fish out the yin-yang dragon pearl, I will only borrow it. I won't snatch anything from you, and I won't borrow it for too long. I can guarantee this with my identity as the young master of the Origin Palace. Is that so? Ning Fan secretly used the mind-reading technique to see through the young lady's thoughts while he was talking to her. This lady was the daughter of the current primitive emperor, Tan Zixin. The old primitive emperor, Tan Tianyan, was her grandfather. The reason why she wanted to ask for the yin-yang dragon pearl was to save someone. As for who she wanted to save and why she needed the dragon pearl, she couldn't see through it at all. When Ning Fan reached this point, he suddenly couldn't see through anything else. He relied on the yin-yang force of the yin-yang locket to see through the lady's thoughts. However, a trace of yin-yang force suddenly emerged from the lady's body, blocking all of Ning Fan's senses. Yin-yang subdued yin-yang. The cultivation method that this lady cultivated wasn't the yin-yang transformation. This trace of yin-yang force was obtained by chance from the outside world. She couldn't control it, but it played a role in blocking her thoughts at critical moments. The young lady didn't know that Ning Fan had seen through her thoughts. Although Ning Fan couldn't see through all of her secrets, he understood that this lady didn't want to snatch the yin-yang dragon pearl from him. She really just wanted to save someone. As such, Ning Fan was slightly relieved that this lady didn't have any evil intentions. I promise to refine a purple rank fishing rod for you. However, the fishing rod that I refine is similar to a natal magical treasure. Different cultivators have to use different techniques to refine it. Leave me a few drops of your demon blood. I will carefully analyze the blood and refine a purple rank fishing rod that is most suitable for you. You don't have to worry about it. I will never use your demon blood for evil purposes. I can make a great heart devil oath on this matter. The young lady's expression was very serious. It was a taboo to ask for demon blood from others. Many secret arts and abilities that poisoned others required blood as a medium. Ning Fan frowned. His demon blood was the blood of the Fu Li tribe. Although no one knew about it, he didn't want to show it to others easily. However, if he didn't leave a few drops of his demon blood, he wouldn't be able to refine a fishing rod. It would be really troublesome. Seeing Ning Fan's hesitant expression, the young lady knew that Ning Fan didn't trust her and was reluctant to hand over the demon blood. She sighed slightly and didn't force him. Then, she said, "Forget it. There's still a compromise. Leave a natal magical treasure with me and I will refine a fishing rod for you according to your natal magical treasure. How about it? After that, you will personally drip your blood on the fishing rod to make it recognize you as its master." "I won't do this step." "All right." Ning Fan didn't hesitate. He touched his glabella with a finger and took out a sword that was as clear as silver starlight and passed it to the young lady. This Separation Slayer sword was one of the few natal magical treasures that he had. It could be put to some use. Good sword. What a pitiful sword. A pitiful sword that doesn't have its master's love. The young lady took the Separation Slayer sword. She caressed the cold body of the sword and rolled her eyes at Ning Fan. She took a closer look at the sword and realized that it wasn't just a 2-star divine weapon. The refining technique was also very mysterious. Some of the techniques were something that even she couldn't compare to. However, the owner of this sword really didn't cherish this sword. It was a dignified 2-star divine weapon, but he neglected to refine it and didn't go through the late stages of cultivation. She was originally a beauty but she became a thief. This was what the young lady was feeling at this moment. It was really a waste for a good Separation Slayer to follow Ning Fan. After being scolded by the young lady, Ning Fan had a feeling that he couldn't explain himself. In recent years, he had indeed neglected to refine magical treasures. The reason was that his cultivation base improved too quickly and the refinement of magical treasures was too time-consuming. Therefore, he didn't divert his attention to refine the Separation Slayer sword. He didn't even cultivate a few magical techniques seriously. All along, he would use whatever magical treasures he found and throw them away after he finished using them. Whenever he learned a magical technique, he would use it for a few times and then throw it away when its power was insufficient. To an ordinary void inquiry stage cultivator, they would naturally have a lot of time to refine magical treasures and practice magical techniques during their thousands of years of cultivation. Ning Fan didn't have much time. Therefore, he could only do whatever he could to get to where he was today. All right. I have received the sword. You can go back and prepare for the competition that will be held 5 days later. Try to get a place in the dragon fishing convention. If you can't get into the top 500 in the competition, everything you do is just empty talk. After the competition, come and get the fishing rod. The young lady carried the Separation Slayer sword and walked out of the refinement room like a precious treasure. No one knew where she went. Ning Fan and the pavilion masters of the 9 upper pavilions exchanged glances. Cough cough. My family is obsessed with the art of refining treasures. Please forgive me for my rudeness. The pavilion master of the 9 upper pavilions said apologetically. It's all right. Miss Cixin is a straightforward person. Why would I care about such trivial things? Ning Fan chatted with the pavilion masters for a while longer. He did not return to the palace in a hurry. Instead, he bought a large number of items in Tianyuan City. He did not forget to search for heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures that could help Luoyu recover her primordial spirit. Most of these items had the effect of restoring primordial spirit power. Ning Fan also bought 5 high-grade heavenly dwelling treasures. After spending 100 billion immortal jade, it was difficult for him to buy a 6th one. High-grade heavenly dwelling treasures were too rare. It was not easy to cultivate the whirlpool technique to the golden spiral realm. As soon as he returned to the palace, Ning Fan met the little demoness and briefly told her about the fishing rod. Then, his body flashed and he went into the profound Yin world. He passed a large number of heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures to Luoyu for her to devour and refine. As for himself, he sat cross-legged on the dark cloud. He patted his storage pouch and took out the ancient golden sword. There were still 5 days before the competition. During these 5 days, Ning Fan decided to use the green astral gold and the profound yellow crystal to repair and upgrade the ancient golden sword and absorb the power of the 5 high-grade heavenly dwelling treasures. 5 days later, thousands of void refinement realm experts and tens of void fragmentation realm experts in Tianyuan City would participate in the competition of the Immortal Ascension Tower. The Immortal Ascension Tower was a gigantic tower in the northern part of Tianyuan City. It had 500 floors. In each floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower, there was a supreme-grade immortal abode. On the day of the competition, all cultivators above the void refinement realm could enter the tower. After the competition, only the 500 cultivators who occupied each floor would be able to obtain the quota to fish for the dragon. According to the floor occupied, the 500 cultivators would be able to obtain different rewards. The reward for the 500 floor was the lowest while the reward for the first floor was the best. As for the specific rewards, they would be announced on the day of the competition. There were dozens of void fragmentation realm cultivators participating in the competition this time. Ning Fan did not think that he could get the first place, but it should not be difficult for him to enter the top 10. He did not need the help of Nieli and the rogue devil to defeat Yun Xiaoxiang, who was arrogant. If he uses Lei Zhenzi's notoriety, it would be enough to scare away 5th heavenly layer void fragmentation realm old monsters. However, it would be difficult to scare away old monsters with higher cultivation realms. First, I'll repair the ancient sword with the green astral gold. After this sword is repaired, its speed will surpass Rain Sovereign and Moksha Sovereign. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with anticipation. A ball of black devil flames rose from his palm and began to burn the green astral gold. Tan Zixin returned to her boudoir. She held the separation slayer that was as beautiful as starlight and kept wiping it. Tonight, she did not start to refine a purple-grade fishing rod. Instead, she was studying the sword intent of the separation slayer and Ning Fan's character. Only by doing so could she refine a purple-grade fishing rod that was most suitable for Ning Fan. She caressed the separation slayer. Through the traces of coldness on the sword, she seemed to be able to understand Ning Fan's hardships along the way. This sword had been accompanying Ning Fan since he was at the Vein Opening Realm. Harmonious Spirit Realm, Gold Core Realm, Nascent Soul Realm, Divine Transformation Realm, Void Refinement Realm, Void Fragmentation Realm. Along the way, this sword had killed countless people. It also contained Ning Fan's countless sorrows and joys. He is a lonely man. Therefore, the sword intent that he left in this sword is very pure. Once the blade is drawn, it will never turn back. How can it be? How can it be? Zixin's eyes were suddenly filled with shock. She had seen countless swords, but she had never seen a flying sword that had such a harmonious balance of yin and yang. The separation slayer had been accompanying Ning Fan every day. After it was changed by the power of the yin-yang locket, it naturally showed such changes. At this moment, Zixin was not shocked by the sword but Ning Fan himself. Ning Fan possessed a kind of power that could rebalance the disordered yin and yang. Perhaps, with this person around, she could save her grandpa without the yin-yang dragon pearl. Grandpa. Perhaps this person can save you. But I'm not sure yet. I'll let Uncle Zhou test this person on the day of the grand competition to see if he can rebalance the disordered yin and yang. If he can, Grandpa will be saved. Grandpa was injured because of me. If Bai Mu really has a way to save Grandpa, I will ask him to help no matter what price I have to pay. I will fulfill all the conditions. The grandpa that Tan Zixin kept thinking about was none other than the old primitive emperor. 400 years ago, she was bitten by a poisonous beast by mistake. Although the poisonous beast was killed, the yin-yang poison in its body was not weak, and it almost killed Zixin. The old primitive emperor had to use all of his magical power to transfer the yin-yang poison into his body. Because of this, the old primitive emperor who was about to become an immortal suffered from the backlash of the yin-yang poison. The demon soul in his body was split into two, separating yin and yang. If the yin and yang couldn't be reunited, the old primitive emperor would never be able to become an immortal in this lifetime. His demon soul was separated and his cultivation base was severely damaged. No one knew that the old primitive emperor's life was in danger now. He no longer had the prestige he once had. The current Tan Tianyan was just an old man who was waiting for death. Before she could confirm that Ning Fan had the ability to save the old primitive emperor, Zixin would not tell him about this rashly. She wanted to wait for the grand competition that would take place 5 days later. She wanted to wait for the result. During the process of waiting, she had to do her best to make a perfect fishing rod for Ning Fan. Tan Zixin, who had always been indifferent to worldly affairs, wanted to befriend someone for the first time. Moreover, that person was a man. In order to save her grandpa, she was willing to give up everything just to satisfy Ning Fan. He's my last hope. Bai Mu. Chapter 637. The difficulty of repairing the ancient golden sword was far beyond Ning Fan's estimation. 5 days had passed and Ning Fan had only managed to repair the ancient sword with the green gang gold. He no longer had the time to use the profound yellow crystal to improve its grade. The repaired ancient sword was slightly slower than Nieli, but it was faster than most cultivators in the 5 Shatter realm. It was even more difficult to upgrade the quality of the ancient sword using the mystic yellow crystal, but if he succeeded, it would not be difficult for the ancient sword to travel at a speed comparable to that of an itinerant immortal. Even if I have the mysterious yellow crystal, I can only wait until I have a lot of time in the future to refine the ancient sword. At the peak of the 5th Shatterer realm, that should be good enough. Ning Fan kept the ancient sword and the profound yellow crystal. Then, he took out the 5 high-grade heavenly abode treasures and drew out his heavenly dwelling power to devour them one by one. With the refinement speed of the profound Yin world that was 100 times faster, Ning Fan quickly absorbed the power of the 5 high-grade heavenly dwellings and integrated them into his natal heavenly dwelling. Within the life grotto heaven, 8 of the 72 silver continents had already been dyed gold. Ning Fan opened his eyes and stretched out his hand. There was a dazzling silver vortex revolving in the center of his palm. It had a tinge of gold in it. In order to further improve the power of this technique, I'll need to find a large number of high-grade grotto heaven treasures. It's not easy. Ning Fan rose to his feet and stood in the hazy sky. He scanned the thatched cottage behind him with his spirit sense. Within the straw hut, Luo Yu slowly absorbed the energy of the heavenly resources to repair her soul. He did not disturb her. With a wave of his hand, he took out the Rain Sovereign storage pouch and took out an item from it. It was a low-grade Immortal Void Spirit Gathering Array plate. Ning Fan took out the formation plate and performed a hand seal. The formation plate immediately hovered in the sky, forming a huge spirit gathering formation around the thatched cottage. This formation could speed up her absorption of the medicinal energy. In the Rain Emperor's storage pouch, there were no powerful offensive treasures, but there were too many life-saving treasures and cultivation items. A blank Rain Gate Jade Scroll, a Battle Cloud Talisman, a spirit-gathering formation disc to speed up cultivation, 100,000 Tao crystals, and 3 imperial immortal talismans. The Immortal Control Talisman was a type of defensive immortal talisman. Once activated, it could block an attack from a loose immortal. However, one talisman could only block one attack. If there was really a loose immortal pursuing him, the Rain Emperor could use the Imperial Celestial Talisman to block an attack, and then use the Battle Cloud Talisman to quickly escape. Unfortunately, he was unable to escape the clutches of the scattered devil. There were several ancient scriptures in the pouch. Even Ning Fan didn't dare to underestimate them. Among them, the Sovereign Rain Primordial Art was a cultivation method that every Rain Sovereign had to cultivate. Ning Fan had already cultivated it a long time ago. Thus, he did not attach too much importance to it. Ning Fan's attention was focused on the Driving Crane Scripture, Ascending Cloud Scripture, and Feather Transformation Scripture. These were 3 ancient scriptures that recorded the process of 3 immortals overcoming life and death. The first immortal lived in seclusion in the mortal world for 1,000 years. He called himself the Plum Wife and Crane Child. He took pleasure in raising cranes. After 1,000 years, he saw through life and death and rode a crane to become an immortal. The second immortal lived alone in the valley for 500 years. He looked at the sea of clouds in the morning and watched the sunset at dusk. After 500 years, he suddenly had an epiphany and ascended the clouds to become an immortal. The third immortal drew life and death into his body, causing his corporeal body to die and his primordial spirit to grow endlessly. Then, his corporeal body died and his primordial spirit ascended to become an immortal. These 3 ancient scriptures contained the experiences of immortals becoming immortals. To Ning Fan, it was a rare treasure. See through life and death, ascend and become an immortal. Ning Fan kept the 3 ancient scriptures and his eyes turned slightly serious. He had already understood what was real and what was false, but he had yet to understand life and death. Becoming an immortal was still a long way off. Ning Fan's body flashed and returned to the temporary imperial residence in the outside world. At this moment, night had just fallen in the outside world. The grand competition would be held after dawn. Ning Fan intended to adjust his breathing properly and maintain his peak condition. Just as he was about to return to the bed and sit down cross-legged, he saw a lady sitting on the bed. She was leaning against the bedpost and sleeping lightly. That lady was a nascent soul realm female cultivator of the White Feather clan, Hua Yu. She did not sleep very deeply. Ning Fan's approach woke her up. Hua Yu greets old ancestor. Hua Yu immediately got up and knelt in front of Ning Fan. Today, she was still wearing a feather robe on the outside but she did not seem to be wearing much inside. She was only wearing a thin veil. Within her eyes, there was a hint of helplessness, shyness, and determination. Why did you come here to look for me in the middle of the night? Ning Fan flicked his sleeve and helped Hua Yu up. Aye. Hua Yu bit her lips with her pearly white teeth. She mustered up her courage and said, I'm willing to recommend myself to sleep with you. Please take pity on me, old ancestor. Recommend yourself to sleep with you? Ning Fan looked at Hua Yu deeply. Even though he had not known this lady for long, he knew that she was not a frivolous person. Occasionally, he used the mind-reading technique and found out about one thing from this lady's heart. The divine transformation realm old ancestor of the Light Feather clan had taken a fancy to Hua Yu and wanted to take her as his concubine. However, Hua Yu would rather go into seclusion for 100 years and stubbornly refuse the old ancestor's order. Even in the face of power, this lady had never done something like recommending herself to sleep with him. Tonight, however, this lady came to his side and offered herself to him. Ning Fan was not narcissistic enough to think that this lady had feelings for him. Then, the reason why she offered herself to him was naturally because she had a request. As soon as he used the mind-reading technique, Ning Fan immediately saw through her thoughts and could not help but sigh. There was a reason why this lady wanted to offer herself to Ning Fan. She knew that Ning Fan was strong, but she also thought that he was lustful. In the past, Bai Mu had humiliated countless women in the clan. That was why he was expelled from the clan. Hua Yu was grateful to Ning Fan for saving her and the remaining members of the clan. However, she was also worried that Ning Fan would humiliate all the women in the clan. Her idea was very simple. She wanted to use her body to exchange for the safety of the women in the clan. Yes. Hua Yu is willing to give herself to old ancestor. I hope that old ancestor will take pity on me. As she was speaking, Hua Yu undid her feather clothes. Below the feather clothes was a thin undergarment that was like a veil. Below the undergarment, there were no other clothes. Vaguely, one could see the beauty of her body. There was a trace of self-hurt in her eyes, but she concealed it very well. It was very worthwhile to dirty herself and save the rest of her sisters, wasn't it? Hua Yu's face turned slightly pale when she imagined that she would be attacked by Ning Fan without any scruples. She reached out her slender and soft fingers, preparing to take off her undergarment as well and present her graceful body to Ning Fan without any reservations. Stupid. Don't worry. I won't touch any of the female cultivators of the Light Feather clan. Just have a good rest here. As for serving me in bed, there's no need for that. Ning Fan lifted his hand and pointed at Hua Yu's glabella with a trace of extremely weak plucking finger force. Hua Yu's body immediately fell limp on the bed behind her and fell into a deep sleep. Ning Fan pulled a thin blanket and covered her delicate body. Then, he turned around and walked out of the room. He was a selfish person who could commit countless sins of killing for his own selfishness. However, he did not dislike selfless people. At this moment, he suddenly thought of Yin Suchio who had already ascended to the southern heaven realm. The cultivation world was extremely cruel. Only selfishness could protect one's own safety. Selfless people were undoubtedly stupid. However, they did not do anything wrong. They were just born in the wrong era. In this era, the lives of the weak were as cheap as grass. To be honest, this was not the era that Ning Fan yearned for. Just like the women in the pleasure boats on the Demon River who could not choose their own fate. If the women of the Light Feather clan did not have Ning Fan's help, they would have long become the human cauldrons of the cultivators of the Black Crane clan. If Ning Fan did not fight against his fate with all his might, he would have long died in the miserable night of the All-Pleasure sect. Ning Fan stood in the night with his hands clasped behind his back. He slowly walked out of the palace and approached the Demon River that was brightly lit outside the palace. Ning Fan stood by the riverside for the entire night. On the Demon River, there were women playing the zither and singing from time to time. The lyrics and music were obviously cheerful and their voices were obviously flawless. However, Ning Fan felt that their voices were very unpleasant to the ears. The music was joyous but the people were sad. These women who were singing and dancing did not like their fate. They just did not have the strength to struggle and resist. They were alive but their hearts were dead. Their thoughts had already turned into ashes. Life remains. Heart remains. There are the two intents of life and death in this song. Ning Fan muttered to himself. As he muttered to himself, a voice of agreement suddenly resounded beside him, causing Ning Fan's expression to change. Little friend, you're right. Even though these women are alive, their hearts are dead. There are the two intents of life and death in this song. I'm listening to this song here and what I'm listening to is the two intents of life and death. The reason why the Yuan Emperor created these women singers is to befriend the old monsters in Tianyuan City and win their hearts. I don't like his way of doing things. The one who spoke was a skinny old man who wore a conical bamboo hat and a straw raincoat. He was holding a fishing rod and fishing at the bank of the Demon River. There was not a trace of magic power or chi around his body. This old man looked like a mortal but Ning Fan knew that there would not be any mortals in Tianyuan City. When did this old man appear beside Ning Fan? Ning Fan had no idea at all. No, it should be said that this old man had been fishing at this place all along, but Ning Fan did not see him at all. It was only until this person spoke that Ning Fan realized that this old man was beside him. This person's chi concealing technique was heaven-defying. One should know that even experts like the Rain Sovereign and Moksha Sovereign would not be able to hide from Ning Fan's senses and hide beside him. Even though this old man did not reveal his magic power chi, his strength was definitely much stronger than Moksha Sovereign, Yun Shi and even the sect masters of the three worlds. Ning Fan spread out his spirit sense slightly, trying to find out the old man's background. However, he found that the old man's chi was as deep as the sea and immeasurable. Rogue Demon. Almost in an instant, Ning Fan confirmed that this fishing old man was a rogue demon. There were 3 great rogue demon old monsters in the demon world. All of them stayed in seclusion in their respective territories all year round and never left their homes. They were all trying to break through to the life-immortal realm. The rogue demon who appeared in Tianyuan City was probably the terrifying old monster who guarded the primordial palace. The old primitive emperor, Tan Tianyen. Ning Fan was certain that the old man in front of him was Tan Tianyen. However, this old man gave him a strange feeling. Even though he was a rogue demon, his chi was a little abnormal, as if he was injured. The old man wearing a bamboo hat naturally knew that Ning Fan was probing him. However, he did not care about it at all. He had a good impression of Ning Fan. He had been fishing in this place for many years, but no one could see him. The old man sat there for a long time. His eyes were dark and gloomy as he watched the primitive emperor befriending countless old monsters by sacrificing female singers. Of course, he knew the reason why the primitive emperor did that. The yin and yang of the old man's demon soul had separated and he was not far from death. Once he dies, it would certainly cause a commotion in the primordial palace. The current primitive emperor needed to befriend a large number of experts to stabilize the primordial palace's position. The old man knew about these reasons. Thus, he did not stop the primitive emperor from doing what he did. However, he did not like what the primitive emperor did. He, Tan Tianyen, had always looked down on those who were stronger than him. He had never killed an innocent person before. He had also never used women to befriend others. Even though he was a cultivator, he had once befriended an emperor of the mortal world. That emperor of the mortal world had already passed away a long time ago. However, he had always followed a principle throughout his life. This principle was also the principle that Tan Tianyen lived by. No marriage, no reparations, no ceding of land and no paying tribute. The emperor would guard the gates of the country and the emperor would die for the country. It was a kind of integrity and persistence. Tan Tianyen had his own persistence. When he saw an old monster at the 4th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm killing people for fun in Tianyuan City, he did not hesitate to kill him with a single palm strike. There was nothing wrong with killing on the path of cultivation because it was impossible to avoid battles. However, if one kills for fun, he would be a cultivator in vain. The old man wearing a bamboo hat sat there with a natural Tao rhyme. He had his own persistence and his own Tao. He had seen countless people in this place. Many old monsters had come to the demon river to choose a woman and brought her back to their chambers to have fun. Only Ning Fan's eyes were as clear as water when he looked at the beautiful female singers. Only those with a clear Tao heart could hear the meaning of life and death from the music. The old man's back was facing Ning Fan. From the beginning to the end, he did not look at Ning Fan, but it was as if he had seen through Ning Fan countless times. He could tell that Ning Fan had consumed some kind of chi concealing pill. The grade of the pill was extremely high, which concealed Ning Fan's true cultivation base. Even he could only see through Ning Fan's background after using a secret technique. A void fragmentation realm cultivator with a bone age of 1,000 years. Ning Fan's innate talent was really something that the old man had never seen in his life. Ning Fan's Tao heart and Tao comprehension, in particular, made the old man even more excited. The old man could also tell that Ning Fan had an indestructible Tao in his heart. He was a rogue demon. The 10 sovereigns of the demon world were all his juniors. However, he addressed Ning Fan as little friend. Obviously, he regarded Ning Fan as his peer. Little friend, you aren't a cultivator of the demon world, right? The chi of the cultivators of the 9 worlds is slightly different after all. The old man said indifferently. Ning Fan was secretly shocked. This person's abilities were really great. He could actually tell that I am not a cultivator of the demon world with just a glance. I won't ask why you entered the demon world while concealing your identity to participate in the dragon fishing convention. However, Tianyuan City has its own rules. You can't kill anyone in the city. The old man could also tell that Ning Fan's baleful chi was terrifying. He was a devil that ran amok in a region. That was why he reminded him. What if someone offends me first? Ning Fan's eyes turned serious and asked. Kill. The old man's eyes suddenly flashed with a blood-red light. It was condensed from baleful chi. His baleful chi was definitely not any weaker than Ning Fan's. The number of lives he had killed was certainly not less than Ning Fan's. I promise that I won't kill anyone in Tianyuan City. However, if someone offends me, I won't be merciful anymore. Ning Fan cupped his fists at the old man. That's enough. I only have one friend in my life. However, he was immortal and has already passed away. What a pity. Meeting you today, it seems like we hit it off well. After tomorrow, the Immortal Ascension Tower will hold a grand competition. You should be participating, right? Yes. If that's the case, I don't mind telling you a secret. The reason why the Immortal Ascension Tower is named as such is because it contains the great secret of life and death that can help people ascend to immortality. The Tao of life and death of the ancestors of my Yuan clan is engraved on the stone walls of the 500 abodes in the tower. The past primitive emperors who possess this jade can comprehend life and death on the stone walls and cultivate the life and death chi. The Tao of life and death carved on the first 20 floors of the abodes belong to immortals. I can lend this jade to you. Without seeing how the old man moved, a piece of ancient golden jade suddenly flew towards him through the air. There was a picture of a huge golden-winged bird carved on the golden jade. It was an ancient demonic beast called Yuan. According to legends, Yuan fed on dragons in ancient times and was extremely powerful. The ancient jade carried an unstoppable aura force. Even a third heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivator might not be able to withstand it. Ning Fan retreated while pointing his finger at the ancient jade. His finger force landed on the ancient jade and neutralized the force of the ancient jade. After tens of times, he neutralized the strong force of the ancient jade and kept it in his hand. When he looked at the old man again, he had already disappeared. He scanned the ancient jade with his spirit sense and found nothing wrong with it. He did not say when he would take back the ancient jade, but he would probably get it back when the time came. Ning Fan's eyes flickered. Even though the old man seemed to be injured, his strength was still slightly stronger than the rogue devil. If he recovers, he should be able to defeat the rogue devil. So this is the strength of the old primitive emperor. I just didn't expect that this person would grant me a fortune. Just do what I want. All the 500 abodes in the Immortal Ascension Tower have the Tao of life and death. If that's the case, I can take a peek at the stone walls of the abodes if I enter the tower. Ha! Ning Fan kept the ancient jade and his eyes turned cold. There were not many opportunities to comprehend the Tao of life and death. This was an extremely important opportunity for him to become an immortal. He must not miss it. The night came to an end and the sun rose. Outside the Immortal Ascension Tower in the northern part of Tianyuan City, cultivators were constantly rushing to this place. Today, there would be a battle inside the Immortal Ascension Tower. After the battle, the 500 experts who would participate in the dragon fishing convention would be decided. The leader of the Black Crane clan had used the ancient teleportation formation to call his friends from afar and rushed to Tianyuan City. He was a Void Pierce stage expert. Beside him were 3 helpers who were all at the Void Pierce stage. Bai Mu. I will definitely make you die in the Immortal Ascension Tower. The leader of the Black Crane clan sneered in his heart. Chapter 638. As time passed, thousands of old monsters gradually gathered at the foot of the Immortal Ascension Tower. All of them were Void Refinement Realm and Void Fragmentation Realm experts who intended to participate in the competition. There were high platforms on all 4 sides of the Immortal Ascension Tower. The north platform was filled with cultivators from Palace of Origin, while the other 3 sides were filled with disciples brought by old monster Shenbai. This was a grand meeting to decide the 500 participants of the Dragon Fishing Convention. As for those low-grade cultivators who were unable to enter Tianyuan City, they gathered outside the city and watched this grand occasion through the shadow-bearing jade wall. Outside Tianyuan City, there were shadow-bearing jade walls that were tens of thousands of zhang tall erected in 4 directions. The jade disc could transmit images. Of course, they could only see what was happening outside the Immortal Ascension Pagoda. Cultivators outside could not see what was happening inside the pagoda. On the north side of the Immortal Ascension Pagoda, there were 10 purple gold seats. These 10 purple gold seats were prepared for the 10 demon emperors. The primitive emperor was wearing a gold-feathered cloak. He looked like a middle-aged man with a short beard. He looked dignified as he sat in the middle of the 10 seats, stroking his beard with a smile. Beside the Yuan Emperor sat the other 3 demon emperors. Not all the demon emperors attended the Hall of Origins meeting. Only 3 of the other 9 demon emperors had come. Western Demon Sea Snow Fox Palace's Demon Emperor, Fox Emperor. The Demon Emperor of the Northern Demon Sea's Green Bull Palace, Green Emperor. He was the Snake King of the Southern Demon Sea's Serpent Palace. The Fox Sovereign was a beautiful woman in white robes. Her cultivation base was at the 4th heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm. Every frown and smile of hers carried charm. The Green Emperor was a burly man with 2 horns on his head. His short beard was like a halberd and his eyes were like that of a tiger. His cultivation base was at the 6th heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm. The Serpent Sovereign was an old woman with white hair and a stooped figure. Her almond-shaped eyes were even more spirited than a young girl's, making her look extremely strange. Her cultivation base was at the 6th heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm. The Fox Emperor's strength was considered to be at the bottom of the 10 great demon emperors, but because the Snow Fox Palace had an itinerant demon overseeing it, no one dared to underestimate the Fox Emperor of this generation. There was still some time before the start of the competition. The Yuan Emperor, the Fox Emperor, and the Green Emperor were exchanging their cultivation experiences. The Serpent Sovereign old woman narrowed her almond-shaped eyes and searched for prey in the crowd below, licking her lips from time to time. I wonder if there is a cauldron that can make my eyes light up in this conference. The old woman thought. The demon sovereigns of the Lust Dragon clan had always cultivated the plucking technique. This old woman had plucked tens of thousands of men in her life. Below the Immortal Ascension Pagoda, 46 Void Fragmentation Realm experts stood proudly in each direction. Without a doubt, these 46 Void Fragmentation Realm experts would certainly be able to obtain the quotas for the General Assembly. He Shishio's group was naturally included in this group. The 4 of them were not cultivators of the demon realm, but they dared to appear in the demon realm openly. Naturally, they relied on He Shishio's identity as a Taoist of the Jade Dao sect. This identity was enough to deter the 10 sovereigns of the demon world, but ordinary people did not know this. Whitewood, the White Feather clan's martial cultivator, Humph, I never thought that the dignified divine void young master Shao Qianxi would actually take a liking to such scum. He Shishio's eyes were filled with disdain and a sense of humiliation. He was a dignified Taoist of the Dao sect, but he couldn't even woo the little demoness. How could such a person win the little demoness' heart? A few days passed, and he Shishio obtained a lot of information about the Light Wing clans by Mu. At first, he thought highly of Ning Fan. However, after reading the information, he immediately despised Ning Fan. When Bai Mu was just at the Void Glimpse stage, he was hunted by a mere half-step Void Refinement Realm cultivator for a year. Bai Mu humiliated a large number of females of his clan and was expelled by his clan. He was the shame of the Light Wing clan. The information he obtained was enough to show that Bai Mu was weak, unbearable, despicable and shameless. He was the scum of the cultivation world. He Shishio only thought that Ning Fan was Bai Mu. Thus, his heart was naturally filled with disdain. I'm afraid that Xiao Qianxi purposely addressed this person as her husband just to provoke me. She has always been proud and arrogant. It's impossible for her to take a liking to such a scum. Forget it. This Bai Mu has a bad reputation and he's so unbearable. He's not enough to pose a threat to me. However, there might really be something special about him that can help us in our journey to search for the map. Since that's the case, I'll keep him alive for the time being. Yunyomu, Xianhua and Gong Yangzi were standing behind He Shishio. Xianhua and Gong Yangzi were resting with their eyes closed while Yunyomu's eyes were filled with confusion. In the past few days, he could not forget the strange sense of familiarity that Bai Mu gave him. He felt that he must have seen Bai Mu somewhere before. However, he just could not remember where he had seen him before. Behind the 46 Void Fragmentation Realm experts were thousands of Void Refinement Realm experts. There were around 100 Primordial Void Stage experts alone and another 200 Absolute Void Stage cultivators. There were around 2,000 Void Glimpse Stage, Void Inquiry Stage and Void Pierce Stage cultivators. The Patriarch of the Black Crane clan and his 3 good friends were all at the Void Pierce Stage. They could be considered as old monsters who were famous in a region. However, it was difficult for them to attract attention in such a grand occasion. With their strength, they would certainly have to fight a tough battle if they want to obtain one of the 500 spots. Bai Mu isn't here yet. I can't wait to tear him into pieces. The Patriarch of the Black Crane clan smiled sinisterly. Behind him, the 3 Void Pierce Stage experts also sneered. I heard that the last star stone of the Light Feather clan is with Bai Mu. If we kill Bai Mu, this star stone. Of course, it will belong to the 3 of you. The Patriarch of the Black Crane clan laughed. Ning Fan walked along the Demon River towards the northern part of the city. His pace was not fast. However, every step he took covered an immeasurable distance. His ears were filled with the zither tunes that were played day and night on the Demon River. When those tunes fell into Ning Fan's ears, he gradually separated them into life and death. Comprehending life and death was a stage that one must go through in the path of becoming an immortal. Each of the 500 abodes in the Immortal Ascension Tower contained the Tao of life and death. I must comprehend all of them at least once. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with battle intent. Originally, he wanted to snatch an abode from the top 20 and wait for the competition to end. Today, however, he wanted to visit all 500 abodes and not miss out on any of the Tao comprehensions of Ancestor Yuani. What is life and what is death? Ning Fan's pace suddenly quickened. With a flash, he disappeared from the bank of the Demon River. When he reappeared, he was already under the Immortal Ascension Tower. It was a gigantic tower that was 1,000,000 zhang tall. There was a heavenly dwelling inside the tower. Each level of the tower was a mid-grade heavenly dwelling. The entrance was not at the bottom but at the top of the tower. Cultivators who want to enter the tower had to go down from the top. Ning Fan's current identity was Bai Mu, a Void Inquiry Stage cultivator. His arrival did not attract much attention. Only a few people's expressions changed. He's here. It's Bai Mu. The eyes of the clan leader of the Black Crane clan and his 3 friends flashed with cold light. Humph. It's Bai Mu. He Shishio smiled in disdain. Yunyomu's eyes flickered. Once again, he felt a strange sense of familiarity from Ning Fan's body. On the purple golden seat on the high platform in the north, the eyes of the snake sovereign flickered. She stared at Ning Fan's direction in disbelief. This young man has such a perfect body. He's an excellent human cauldron. Unfortunately, Tan Tianyan has given an order that private fights are not allowed in Tianyuan City. Otherwise, I will definitely capture this young man and bring him back to the palace to have some fun. Forget it. After he leaves Tianyuan City. The old woman's eyes turned cold. As soon as Ning Fan entered the venue, he suddenly sensed several cold gazes. There were too many experts in this place. Their spirit sense was in a mess. It was not easy to identify the source of the gazes. Before Ning Fan could identify the source of the gazes, the great elder of the primordial palace suddenly soared into the sky and stood in the sky. He lifted his hand and crushed a golden jade slip. The great elder's name was Zhou Nan. He was at the fourth heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. As soon as he soared into the sky, he immediately attracted the attention of countless people. As soon as the jade slip was crushed, countless dazzling golden words appeared in the sky. The competition will begin at 6 o'clock a.m. and end at 6 o'clock a.m. the next day. When it ends, all the fellow Taoists who have a cave dwelling will obtain a place to participate in the dragon fishing convention. Apart from that, they will also receive additional rewards. Those who obtain the first to 20th floor of the cave dwelling will receive an origin clear pill. Those who obtain the first to 100th floor of the cave dwelling will receive a void fragmentation pill. Those who obtain the cave dwelling after the 100th floor of the cave dwelling will receive an absolute void pill. In the Immortal Ascension Tower, killing is not allowed unless it's absolutely necessary. Those who violate this rule will die. Ning Fan's eyes scanned through the golden words without saying anything. However, many old monsters at the scene exclaimed in surprise, including a few void fragmentation realm cultivators. Origin Clear Pill. This is the most precious pill of the Origin Palace. It's a 7th grade pill. Any cultivator below the 5th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm who consumes it can greatly improve their spirit sense cultivation base. Initially, I was planning to just snatch a random cave dwelling. But now, it seems like I have to compete for this origin clear pill. One of the void fragmentation realm old monsters was overjoyed. His spirit sense was already on the verge of breaking through. If he can obtain the origin clear pill, his spirit sense would probably improve by 1 heavenly layer. Void fragmentation pill. It's a pill that can increase the chances of obtaining the void fragmentation realm by 5%. For the sake of this pill, I must get into the top 100 floors no matter what. The eyes of an origin returning old monster shone brightly. Absolute void pill. With this pill, I can officially go into seclusion after the competition ends and attempt to break through to the absolute void stage. A void pure stage old monster was overjoyed. Great Elder Zhou Nan smiled faintly. The reason why the Origin Palace took out these rewards was obviously to make the competition more intense. Only then would they be able to select the 500 strongest individuals to participate in the dragon fishing convention. Weaklings were not qualified to fish for dragons. Open the door of the tower. Zhou Nan suddenly gave an order in a deep voice. Immediately, 4 void fragmentation realm experts of the Origin Palace soared into the sky. They turned into 4 giant golden-winged birds and flew towards the top of the tower. So these are the Origin Wings demon birds. Ning Fan's eyes flickered as he looked at the 4 giant golden-winged birds. Dragons were true spirits. The Origin Wings fed on dragons. Thus, they were naturally very strong. Although they were slightly weaker than the immemorial Dark Sparrow, they were not much weaker. In the demon spirit land of the upper world, the Origin Wings clan was considered as a very strong true spirit clan. The 4 Origin Wings giant birds flew to the top of the tower and flapped their giant wings. Rays of golden light shone on the giant door at the top of the tower. Immediately, the door slowly opened with a loud bang. The 4 Origin Wings giant birds flashed with golden light and flew back to the high platform in the north, turning back into 4 void fragmentation realm cultivators. The rumbling sound of the door opening lingered in everyone's ears. The moment the door opened, Great Elder Zhou Nan suddenly said, "The competition begins now." As soon as he finished speaking, he glanced at Ning Fan's direction inconspicuously. Then, he took the lead and turned into a ray of golden light, directly entering the giant tower. The people on the scene obviously did not expect that the Great Elder of the Yuan Palace would participate in the competition. However, they did not mind it at all. 46 void fragmentation realm experts flew into the sky at the same time and entered the giant door at the top of the tower. Then, rays of light flew into the sky one after another, heading towards the giant door. Ning Fan was not in a hurry to enter the Immortal Ascension Tower. The cultivators who entered first would either gather at the first few floors and fight for the abodes, or they would go all the way down. However, it was still difficult for them to avoid battles. Ning Fan's goal was to go through all 500 abodes. In other words, he would have to experience at least 500 battles in order to enter the abodes and comprehend life and death. He only had 1 day to go through all 500 floors. Time was very tight. Hence, if anyone tries to block his way, he would have to use thunderous means to repel them. When most of the cultivators had entered the abodes, Ning Fan turned into a strand of smoke and floated towards the tower. The eyes of the clan leader of the Black Crane clan turned cold. He brought his 3 helpers and quietly turned into a ray of light and chased after Ning Fan. One after another, void refinement realm old monsters entered the giant tower. At the end of the day, there was no one outside the Immortal Ascension Tower. In the Demon River Palace, the little demoness who was leisurely brewing tea muttered to herself, "I wonder which floor my little Fan will be able to get to." In the Upper 9 Pavilion's weapon refinement workshop, Tan Zixin had just completed the last step of refining her fishing rod. The competition should have already begun. I wonder what Uncle Zhou's results will be. On the high platform at the north of the Immortal Ascension Tower, the Yuan Emperor was discussing the Tao with the Fox Emperor and the Green Emperor. Suddenly, his eyes were filled with shock. At a certain moment, an overwhelming battle intent suddenly descended in the direction of the Immortal Ascension Tower. Countless cultivators raised their heads and looked towards the sky. What they saw was a 30,000 zhang tall ferocious ape standing proudly above the dark demonic clouds. The aura emitted from the ape was enough to suffocate all the cultivators below the void fragmentation realm. The Yuan Emperor's expression changed. The expressions of the Fox Emperor, the Green Emperor and the Snake Emperor changed as well. "Ape Emperor, why did you come here so aggressively?" The Yuan Emperor could tell that the ape did not come with good intentions. This ferocious ape was the ape sovereign, and behind him were hundreds of experts, including Yuan Tong. The ape emperor's physical body had already reached the 7th heavenly layer of Nirvana realm. He had once defeated a 7-broken devil sovereign of the devil world with a single punch. The ape emperor was cruel and cold-blooded. In a fit of rage, he once raised his staff and stirred up the East Sea, slaughtering hundreds of races there. The ape emperor came with bad intentions. Everyone felt an invisible pressure. "Bai Mu, who are you?" The giant ape asked coldly. An extremely domineering voice exploded like thunder, causing tens of thousands of low-level cultivators to cough up blood at the same time. "Bai Mu?" The sovereigns exchanged glances with each other. Obviously, they did not know who Bai Mu was. How could he provoke the ape emperor? The Yuan Emperor knew who Bai Mu was. Bai Mu had entered Tianyuan City a few days ago for the dragon fishing convention. He had caused quite a commotion and even attracted the attention of the Yuan Emperor. However, after reading the information about Bai Mu, the Yuan Emperor immediately forgot about him and stopped paying attention to him. Those who were worthy of his attention were at least void fragmentation realm cultivators. A mere void inquiry stage cultivator like Bai Mu was not enough. At this moment, the Yuan Emperor was greatly surprised. A mere void inquiry stage cultivator like Bai Mu actually dared to provoke the Ape Emperor. He was really bold. Bai Mu has already entered the Immortal Ascension Tower and is now participating in the competition. The Yuan Emperor said indifferently. Is that so? He. If that's the case, I also want to enter the Immortal Ascension Tower. I want to meet this Bai Mu. The ferocious ape turned into a ray of black light and was about to fly towards the Immortal Ascension Tower. The Yuan Emperor's eyes turned cold. He pointed a finger at the sky and stopped the fleeing light of the ferocious ape. Yuan Emperor, why are you stopping me? The ferocious ape was enraged. This is Tianyuan City. All of you have missed the opening time of the Immortal Ascension Tower. You can no longer enter this tower. The Yuan Emperor's eyes turned cold. Of course, he would not let the ferocious ape enter the tower and kill people wantonly inside. Rules were rules. He could not violate the rules set by the previous Yuan Emperor and neither could the ferocious ape. I can't enter the tower. The ferocious ape's eyes darkened. He did not put the Yuan Emperor in his eyes at all. But when he thought of the unfathomable old Yuan Emperor in the Yuan Hall, the ferocious ape did not dare to be presumptuous anymore. With a flash of black light, the ferocious ape retreated from his demon form and turned into a black-robed man with thick hair. He led a group of men and landed on the high platform in the north and sat on the purple gold seat with a cold expression. Forget it. I will wait here for Bai Mu to come out of the tower. Go ahead. The Yuan Emperor returned to his seat. He was weighing whether he should offend the Ape Emperor for Bai Mu. He had never thought of protecting Bai Mu as it would incur the wrath of the Ape Hall. But he had never thought of betraying Bai Mu and pleasing the Ape Emperor. He was not a servant of the Ape Hall, there was no need for him to humble himself. Moreover, the Yuan Emperor knew that the reason the Great Elder entered the Immortal Ascension Tower was to investigate a person for his daughter. The person he was investigating seemed to be Bai Mu. This Bai Mu really knows how to cause trouble. But it's a little strange. Zixin has always been uninterested in any man. Why would she suddenly care about this infamous Bai Mu? Could it be? Zixin has fallen in love with this Bai Mu. As soon as this thought emerged in his mind, the Yuan Emperor's face immediately darkened. Bai Mu's reputation was too bad. As her father, how could he not be worried if his daughter fell in love with such a person? If his daughter really fell in love with Bai Mu, should he stop her or follow her wishes? Sigh. The Yuan Emperor let out a long sigh, feeling a headache coming on. Ning Fan did not know about the Ape Emperor's arrival. As soon as he entered the Immortal Ascension Tower, he was immediately teleported to a certain area on the 500th floor. I wonder where the abode of the 500th floor will be located. Even though the heavenly dwelling was vast, it was only tens of thousands of li wide. Ning Fan slowly spread his spirit sense, covering the entire heavenly dwelling in an instant. After withdrawing his spirit sense, Ning Fan immediately flew towards a certain direction with a flash of traveling light. In that direction, there was a tall mountain with a supreme great abode at its belly. At this moment, there were more than 10 void glimpse stage cultivators fighting for this abode. There was also a void inquiry stage old man among them. Relying on his profound cultivation base, he would occasionally attack and defeat the void glimpse stage cultivators in the crowd with a ray of red sword light. Humph! This old man is determined to get this abode. Don't fight with me for it. Otherwise, I won't show any mercy. Each of the void glimpse stage cultivators looked at the void inquiry stage old man in fear. He's old monster Can Fong of the Fire Silkworm clan. This is bad. He has a void inquiry stage cultivation base. We can't win against him and can't get this abode. Should we give up? Let's join forces and defeat this person. Then, we void glimpse stage cultivators will fight for the abode again. What do you think? Seeing that all the void glimpse stage cultivators were about to join forces to deal with Kenfeng, an extremely cold baleful chi suddenly descended from the sky at this moment. That icy cold chi made each of the old monsters' souls tremble. They could not imagine how many people the owner of this baleful chi had killed to possess such terrifying baleful chi. I want to enter this abode to have a look. I don't want anyone to disturb me. Those who are not involved, step down. Chapter 639. I want to take a look around the cave, and I don't want anyone to disturb me. Those who are not involved, step down. The voice wasn't loud, but it contained a shocking killing intent. It was like countless claps of thunder exploding in everyone's ears. Including Kenfeng, everyone's face instantly turned pale. Kenfeng was afraid, extremely afraid. Ning Fan approached him step by step. His aura force was as majestic as a mountain and he did not dare to resist it. However, when he saw Ning Fan's appearance, he was immediately stunned. You are Bai Mu. Bai Mu from the Light Wing clan. All of the Void Glimpse stage cultivators were stunned. Initially, they were still afraid of Ning Fan. However, after hearing the identity of the person in front of them, all of them suppressed the fear in their hearts and did not leave in a hurry. Everyone was hoping for luck, especially Kenfeng. He had once seen Ning Fan entering the city with his own eyes and felt his void inquiry stage chi. This Bai Mu is clearly a void inquiry stage cultivator. Why is his baleful chi so terrifying? Fake, it must be fake. He is a void inquiry stage expert and so am I. There's no need to be afraid of him. Kenfeng kept convincing himself in his mind. Finally, he mustered up his courage and raised his hand. A ray of scarlet sword light pierced through Ning Fan's heart. Ning Fan, however, did not even look at the scarlet sword light. Instead, he continued walking forward. When the scarlet sword light was about to hit his body, a silver crack suddenly appeared 3 chi in front of him and a silver vortex appeared out of nowhere. As the whirlpool retracted, the scarlet sword radiance was sucked into the whirlpool and lost its connection with Kenfeng. White wood. How dare you snatch my intrinsic flying sword? Kenfeng was enraged. Without hesitation, he rushed towards Ning Fan. Halfway there, a silver vortex suddenly appeared in the air, and he was almost sucked into it. Kenfeng had a premonition that with his cultivation level, he would definitely die if he was sucked into the whirlpool. All of a sudden, he retreated and stared at Ning Fan in shock. The vortex gradually disappeared. Ning Fan was the one who removed the whirlpool. If Ning Fan wanted to kill him, he would have already died. I've spared you twice, there won't be a third time. Ning Fan's tone was extremely indifferent. He walked past the crowd and went straight to the cave. All of Kenfeng's hair stood on end. He knew that Ning Fan was not joking. If Ning Fan was willing, he would have already died twice. Every level of the cave abode was protected by a formation light and guarded by demonic puppets. The formation light of the abode on the 500th floor was roughly at the low-grade mortal void realm. Inside the abode, there was also a void glimpse stage demon puppet guarding it. Ning Fan slowly approached the formation light. He lifted his finger and pointed at it. Without using any ability, the formation light directly collapsed. He had to rely on his physical body to break through the formation, and there was no need for him to use any divine abilities. The void glimpse stage spiritual puppets that guarded the abode were extremely violent. They would risk their lives to fight anyone who entered the abode. Generally speaking, one could only enter the abode by destroying the puppet. However, with just a glance from Ning Fan, the puppet suddenly revealed a look of fear, not daring to attack Ning Fan at all. Ning Fan did not kill Can Feng, nor did he subdue his spiritual puppet. He had promised Tan Tianyen that he would not kill anyone, and he would definitely do it. He didn't take away the demon puppet of Palace of Origin. The old primitive emperor had given him an opportunity, and if he were to snatch the puppet away, it would seem like he was biting the hand that fed him. This Bai Mu has such a terrifying physical body. One finger could shatter the mortal void formation light. If he wants to kill me, he only needs to casually point his finger. Moreover, what a strange divine ability he has. Just a look from him actually made a void glimpse stage demon puppet feel fear. I can't afford to offend Bai Mu. Can Feng was terrified as he clasped his fists towards the cave dwelling. Not daring to stay any longer, he flew downwards in a flash. How could he still dare to provoke Ning Fan? Ning Fan had spared his life twice. If he still doesn't know when to stop for the third time, he will certainly die. All the void glimpse stage cultivators held their breaths in an instant. Even the powerful Can Feng had been scared off, so who would dare to stay here and try their luck? No one dared to stay here any longer, and they didn't say a word before heading to the next level. Since Ning Fan had taken away this level of the abode, they certainly would not be able to get it back. Thus, they could only go to the next level to try their luck. Ning Fan ignored Can Feng and the others. He was already a void fragmentation realm expert. There was no need for him to lower himself to the same level as these juniors. Yao Ming stood guard outside the dwelling respectfully while Ning Fan began to search inside the dwelling. The stone walls on both sides of the road were embedded with moonstones for illumination. At the end of the dwelling was a green stone wall that was as smooth and clean as a mirror. The stone wall was covered with moss. Ning Fan flicked his sleeves and swept it away, revealing the words of the demon race below. Ning Fan scanned through the words. These words of the demon race were written by an ancestor of the Yuan Qi clan. It briefly recorded his life. At the end of the words, there was a groove that was just big enough to fit the ancient golden jade that Tan Tianyen gave him. Ning Fan took out the ancient jade and pressed it into the stone wall. Then, he reached out his palm and touched the cold demon words. Then, he closed his eyes. The scenery in front of him changed one after another. It was as if he had entered a dream and became another person. In this dream, his name was Tan Boyan. He was born in the ancient demon world. His innate talent was extraordinary. When he was young, he attained the vein opening realm, harmonious spirit realm, core formation realm, nascent soul realm, divine transformation realm, void refinement realm and void fragmentation realm. His life was very boring. Other than cultivation, there was nothing else he could do. Before he died, Tan Boyan's cultivation base was at the 5th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. After cultivating to this level, he only had one understanding about life and death. Fish are born in water and die in water. Grass and trees are born in soil and die in soil. Humans are born in the Tao and die in the Tao. Living for the Tao and dying for the Tao. This was the life of this old ancestor. The dream was very long and it included Tan Boyan's entire life. However, to Ning Fan, it only lasted for 10 breaths. Ning Fan opened his eyes and took out the ancient golden jade from the groove. Then, he kept it in his sleeve for the time being. His eyes were a little blank. Humans are born in the Tao and die in the Tao. They are born for the Tao and die for the Tao. After a while, Ning Fan's eyes regained their clarity. With a flash, he left the dwelling and flew towards the 499th floor. In every floor of the heavenly dwelling, there was a teleportation formation that led to the upper and lower floors. In just a few moments, Ning Fan passed through the teleportation formation and arrived at the 499th floor. He spread his spirit sense and immediately flew towards a certain direction. The dwelling of the 499th floor was built at the bottom of a lake. Currently, there were two groups of cultivators fighting on the lake for the dwelling. Both groups were mainly made up of void glimpse stage cultivators. Each of them had a void inquiry stage cultivator as their leader. One of the groups of cultivators was Kenfeng and the others who came down from the 500th floor. The other group of cultivators had a total of 15 void glimpse stage cultivators. The void inquiry stage cultivator was also slightly stronger than Kenfeng. His surname was Zhu and he was a burly man. As for the reason, it was naturally because Kenfeng had lost his natal magic treasure. Kenfeng, you are not a match for me. Quickly retreat and this dwelling will belong to me. The burly man with the surname Zhu sneered. Bullshit. If it wasn't because my fire spirit sword was taken away by someone else, I wouldn't be a match for you. Zhu Jun, if you know what's good for you, hurry up and give up the dwelling. Otherwise. Just as Kenfeng was about to say something ruthless, he suddenly shuddered and saw an extremely familiar ray of traveling light approaching him. That traveling light dispersed and a white-robed young man walked out of it. It was Ning Fan. It's Bai Mu. Everyone's expression changed. The expressions of the burly man with the surname Zhu and the other cultivators changed because of contempt. The expression of Kenfeng and the others changed because of fear. Just now, he had witnessed Ning Fan's powerful means and he took the initiative to give up the dwelling. What he could not understand was why Ning Fan came to the 499th floor to mess with them when he had already occupied the 500th floor. Fellow Taoist Bai, why did you come here? Kenfeng asked cautiously. I want to enter this dwelling to have a look around. I don't want anyone to disturb me. Those who have no business here, retreat. Ning Fan repeated what he said on the previous floor. This time, he did not release any baleful qi when he said those words. Therefore, the burly man with the surname Zhu and the others did not even have the slightest bit of fear in their hearts. All of them burst into laughter. Isn't this Bai Mu who has been hunted by half-step void refinement realm cultivators for a year? He actually asked us to retreat. What a joke. Ha! Even though he has a void inquiry stage cultivation base, I'm afraid any of us void glimpse stage experts are enough to defeat him, right? Saying that we are unrelated people. In my opinion, Bai Mu is the most unrelated person here. Weaklings don't have the right to occupy a dwelling. The burly man with the surname Zhu and the others were laughing. However, Kenfeng and the others could not laugh at all. Before their laughter subsided, Ning Fan had already waved his sleeve. He did not attack them with a killing blow. Instead, he just casually waved his sleeve. It was a gentle wave of wind but it seemed to contain a tremendous force. With just a single blow, the burly man with the surname Zhu and the others felt a sharp pain in their chests and were sent flying away by Ning Fan. How is this possible? The burly man with the surname Zhu and the 17 void glimpse stage experts got up from the ground. The way they looked at Ning Fan was as if they were looking at a ghost. As for Kenfeng and the others, they secretly mocked the burly man with the surname Zhu and the others. They no longer fought for the dwelling on the 499th floor. Instead, they turned around and flew towards the 498th floor. Why didn't they return to the 500th floor? They did not know why Ning Fan still wanted to occupy the 499th floor even though he had already occupied the 500th floor. Without Ning Fan's permission, they did not dare to simply seize the dwelling that Ning Fan had occupied before. Thus, they could only continue to go to the lower floors to fight for opportunities. Ning Fan's gaze swept across the burly man and the others. His eyes narrowed slightly. Why are you still here? As soon as the burly man and the others heard Ning Fan's words, cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Without saying a word, they chased after Kenfeng and the others and flew towards the 498th floor. Even a fool could see that Ning Fan's strength far surpassed everyone on the scene. Who would dare to fight against him for the dwelling? After all, there were 500 dwellings. If they can't get this one, they would just take the next one. Ning Fan raised his hand to break the restriction. A single gaze from him scared the puppets away. He then walked to the end of the dwelling and took out an ancient golden jade from his sleeve, embedding it into the wall. Ning Fan pressed his palm on the cold stone wall and closed his eyes. The scenery in front of him changed. It was the memory of another old ancestor Yuani. This person's name was Tan Ziyu. His cultivation base had stopped at the sixth heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. This person's innate talent was poor. When he was young, he was abandoned by his clan and ended up in a mortal country. After that, he was adopted by a powerful aristocratic family in that country. This person had never cultivated before the age of 30. He dedicated his entire life to that aristocratic family and led an army to battle like a mortal. Even though his innate talent was poor, he was still a member of the Yuani clan after all. His physical body was far stronger than a mortal's and his strength was astonishing. However, it was difficult to change the situation. His country was defeated and he was trapped at the riverside. Even so, he would rather die than cross the river and commit suicide. Coincidentally, an old man from the Yuani clan happened to pass by. He took pity on him and kept his soul back to his clan. Then, he reconstructed his physical body and taught him his demon cultivation method. From the old man's point of view, even though Tan Ziyu's innate talent was poor, he had a spirit that ordinary people could not compare to. Thus, he might not necessarily be destined for the great Tao. Tan Ziyu had cultivated to the six-shattering realm with his poor innate talent. Before he passed away, he only had one sentence to say about life and death. I'm a hero in life and a hero in death. Tens of breaths later, Ning Fan withdrew his palm and kept the ancient golden jade. His eyes were filled with contemplation. Tan Ziyu's understanding of life and death was obviously different from Tan Boyan's. Tan Boyan was a typical ascetic cultivator. He was born to cultivate the Tao and he would cultivate the Tao even in death. However, Tan Ziyu was different. He had his own persistence. Even though his innate talent was poor, his achievements were higher than Tan Boyan's. To Tan Boyan, there was no difference between life and death. He obtained it from the Tao and returned it to the Tao. He had no sorrow or joy. To Tan Ziyu, there was no difference between life and death. When he was alive, he was renowned throughout the world. When he died, he would become a hero among ghosts. Everyone's understanding of life and death is different. If I can observe the Tao of life and death of the 500 Yuani old ancestors, it will be very beneficial to me. Ning Fan inspected his body and realized that the life and death qi in his body had increased slightly after he finished observing the two stone walls. It was a process of integrating the life and death of others into his own body. Ning Fan did not say much. In a flash, he passed through the teleportation formation and entered the 498th floor. He spread his spirit sense and chose the right direction. Then, he immediately flew towards the abode on this floor. This abode was built on the crater of a volcano. Outside the crater of the volcano, there were three groups of cultivators engaged in a chaotic battle. Two of them were the Void Glimpse stage teams led by Confong and the burly man surnamed Zhu respectively. The other group of cultivators only had two people. They seemed to be a pair of twin brothers. Both of them had Void Inquiry stage cultivation bases. Give it up. This abode belongs to me. Confong laughed loudly. Humph. This abode should belong to me. The burly man surnamed Zhu sneered. Wrong, wrong, wrong. This abode should belong to us, Old Men Fong and Old Men Lei. The pair of old men laughed sinisterly. While the three groups of cultivators were engaged in a chaotic battle, a white-robed young man suddenly appeared in the middle of the battle. I want to enter this abode to have a look. I don't want anyone to disturb me. Those who have no business here, back off. As soon as they heard what he said, Old Men Fong and Lei burst into laughter. What an arrogant kid. Why should I back off just because you say so? Bai Mu. He is Bai Mu, the disgrace of the Light Feather clan. I didn't expect him to be so arrogant even though he is weak. Before the two of them could finish laughing, they were already injured internally by Ning Fan with a wave of his sleeve. Then, they fell heavily to the ground like kites with broken strings. Crawling up from the ground, Old Man Feng and Lei's faces were filled with shock. This person either has an unrivaled cultivation base among the Void Inquiry stage experts or he is a Void Pure stage expert who has concealed his cultivation base. The two of us are definitely no match for him. Let's go. Old Men Feng and Lei did not say anything else and ran towards the 497th floor. As for Ken Feng, the burly man surnamed Zhu and the others, they were complaining incessantly in their hearts. This Bai Mu is too much. He has already occupied 2 floors of the abode. Why does he still want to snatch our abode? He's going too far. So what if he's going too far? His strength is obvious. We are not his match at all. Forget it. Let's just give this abode to him. Shameless. How shameless. This Bai Mu is obviously so strong. Why didn't he go to the lower floors to snatch the abode? Instead, he is making things difficult for us. Forget it. Let's go to the 497th floor. I hope Bai Mu doesn't come here again. If he comes to the 497th floor to snatch the abode again, I will. I will go to the 496th floor. Chi rays of traveling light whistled across the sky and headed towards the 497th floor. Ning Fan did not pay attention to them. His eyes flashed and he dived into the lava, entering the volcanic cave. This cave dwelling gave him an unusual feeling. The cultivation base of the owner of this cave was not high. He was just at the 4th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. However, his comprehension of the Tao of life and death was much deeper than that of the previous 2 cave dwellings. It was enough to move people's hearts. It was because this person's comprehension of the Tao of life and death was filled with emotions. This person did not die for the Tao nor did he die for his reputation. Instead, he passed away in meditation in this cave just to save a woman. If it weren't for you, life and death would be meaningless. If I can save you from samsara, why would I regret death? Why would I be afraid of death? We are born in different worlds but we die in the same cave. Chapter 640. Through the ancient jade, Ning Fan saw the life of this Yuan ancestor. He wasn't born in the demon race but a mortal village. When he was young, he yearned to become an immortal and cultivate the Tao. He heard that there was a mountain in the north where immortals lived. With great perseverance, he walked 10,000 li of land barefoot and climbed a 10,000 zhang tall mountain to find the immortal master's abode. He knelt outside the abode for a month and fainted due to hunger. The cultivator in the abode was a gold core realm cultivator who was born in the Yuan clan. He was impressed by the young man's determination, so he woke him up and took him in as a disciple, teaching him demonic techniques. From then on, he shed his mortal body and became a demon. He had demon veins and merged with the 5 spirits. When he reached the harmonious spirit realm, his master was killed by a nascent soul realm cultivator. When he returned to his hometown, the entire village was massacred by that nascent soul realm cultivator. From then on, his heart turned cold and he ignored life and death. He killed countless people along the way and gradually achieved great success in his demonic techniques. After forming his demon core and condensing his demon nascent soul, he massacred his enemy's entire clan. He got his revenge but he was lonely for the rest of his life. After cultivating for hundreds of years, he finally understood that cultivating the Tao wasn't as free and unfettered as he imagined. If he could, he would rather become immortal. At that moment, his reputation gradually rose and he was valued by a member of the Yuan clan who wanted to recommend him into the clan. However, he rejected the opportunity and went to a mortal town alone. He became a carpenter and became immortal. After turning into a mortal for 100 years, his heart gradually calmed down. The various states of life turned into the power of intent realm and were engraved in his heart. Even though he didn't actively cultivate the Tao, his cultivation base kept improving during the 100 years. Eventually, he advanced to the spirit-severing realm. The knot in his heart was gradually resolved and he wanted to achieve the great Tao. Even if the path of cultivation was lonely, he had to continue. However, at this moment, a harmonious spirit girl barged into his heart. That girl didn't have a high aptitude and her body was weak. However, she spent all her effort for him and her life was about to end. He was moved and forgot about the great Tao. He carried the girl back to the Une clan and took the initiative to join them, hoping to use the clan's secret technique to save her life. After 100 years of loneliness and 1,000 years of waiting, his cultivation base improved step by step until he reached the fourth heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Even with his help, the girl only reached the nascent soul realm. She had reached the limit of her lifespan. Heavenly Tao, Samsara, Destiny. With his void fragmentation realm cultivation base, he would not be able to defeat or stop them. When the young woman's corpse gradually grew cold in his arms, he seemed to have gone mad as he roared toward the sky. Even if the heavens want you to die, I will take you back. On that day, he battled against the heavenly law puppet, but in the end, he was defeated and died. In the end, he failed to take back the young girl's soul, but as promised, he died with the young girl and was buried in the same grave. Ning Fan kept the ancient jade and closed his eyes, remaining silent for a long time. This stone wall contained a deep determination. That determination surpassed life and death. That was why even though this stone wall didn't mention life and death, it was the one with the deepest Tao comprehension out of the previous 3 stone walls. Ning Fan could imagine the scene of that old ancestor Yuan Qi roaring at the heavens while hugging the corpse of his beloved. Even if the heavens want you to die, I will take you back. Ning Fan could feel that kind of pain. If he and the other women die in the hands of the heavenly Tao, he would certainly kill the heavens in a fit of rage and seize their souls from them. He cultivated bitterly and slaughtered all along the way, all for the sake of preventing such a situation from occurring. Because he couldn't bear that kind of pain, he would never let it happen. Never. Even if he had to rewrite the rules of the great Tao of life and death, he had to let her be reborn. For example, the daughter of the celestial emperor, Mu Weiliang, and his mother, Ning Qian. No matter what, he would revive them and save them from reincarnation. Because of this man's obsession, he couldn't see through life and death and mourned for the dead. It was precisely because he couldn't see through life and death that he dared to step on life and death, defying the heavens. The great Tao of life and death is intertwined with destiny. If the heavens want you to die, you can't go against it. If you want to escape from life and death, you must cultivate the great Tao. This is the will of the heavens. You can't go against it, but how can the world be so perfect? If the heavens want me to die, then I should die. If heaven wants Jiha to die, how can I watch Jiha lose her life in the cycle of reincarnation? I can't do it. Perhaps in this lifetime, I won't be able to see through life and death, because I'm not willing to be controlled by fate, to be imprisoned by life and death. Too many people cultivate the Tao and comprehend life and death, but they only make their Tao conform to the heavenly Tao. In the end, they succumb to fate. That's why they can't become immortals in this life. If the heavens sent a tribulation, it could only be avoided and not resisted. If the heavens snatched away one's love, one would only grieve and not oppose it. When the time comes, it could only sigh and not resist. This isn't the Tao I want to cultivate. The life and death qi in his body suddenly rose rapidly. The life and death qi attached to his primordial spirit, intertwining with each other to form 3 strange black and white Tao patterns. He was still comprehending life and death. However, his Tao had begun to rise above life and death. Cultivators should go against the heavens because immortal cultivation was something that defies the heavens and changes one's fate. If a mere mortal wanted to live as long as heaven and earth, he would first have to break the rules of life and death of the heavenly Tao. Only by doing so could he surpass the limit of lifespan given by heaven and earth and achieve immortality. He had to surpass the control of the heavenly Tao of the mortal world and then ascend. Ning Fan turned into a ray of light and flew out of the crater of the volcano, heading towards the 497th floor. At this moment, there were a total of 3 black and white Tao patterns on his primordial spirit. One more Tao comprehension of life and death was equivalent to one more black and white Tao pattern. There were 500 cave dwellings in this place, which contained the Tao comprehension of 500 stone walls left by ancestor Yuani. These Tao comprehension were not the comprehension of ordinary cultivators. They were the comprehension of those who had experienced life and death and cultivated the life and death qi in their bodies. From the 3 ancient scriptures of the Rain Sovereign, Ning Fan learned that there were 3,000 great Taos in heaven and earth and 800 external Taos. If the number of black and white Tao patterns on his primordial spirit reaches 3,800, he would be able to surpass the limit of lifespan given by the heavenly Tao of the mortal world and achieve immortality. There were too many void fragmentation realm cultivators who had comprehended life and death. Many of them had cultivated the life and death qi, but they did not manage to attach life and death to their primordial spirit. Attaching life and death to one's primordial spirit was called Tao unification. The reason why these people could not do it was because they did not have the heart to defy fate. Some of them could achieve Tao unification with their primordial spirit, but they could not attain 3,800 Tao patterns of life and death in the end. Thus, they missed the opportunity to attain the immortal realm. Within the 9 worlds, there were no more than 10 people who could achieve Tao unification with their primordial spirit. Most of these 10 people were rogue immortals, rogue demons, rogue devils and others. They had failed to attain immortality time and time again and tried to attain the immortal realm again and again. At this moment, Ning Fan's eyes glowed with faint black and white light. The light was still weak, but only those rogue immortal old monsters could produce it. The light had a name. It was called Tao Light of Life and Death. Even though the light was weak, Ning Fan had indeed achieved the first step of Tao unification with his primordial spirit. On the 497th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower, on top of a gigantic tree that was as thick as a mountain, there was a cave dwelling. The puppets in the cave dwelling had long been destroyed and abandoned at the side. The formation light in the cave abode had long been broken, its brilliance shattered. Outside the cave dwelling, Ken Fong, the burly man surnamed Zhu, Old Man Fong and Old Man Lei were injured and fell to the ground. Each of them wore a shocked expression. Before they arrived, the cave dwelling on the 497th floor had already been occupied by someone. The person who occupied the cave dwelling was none other than the person who injured them. He was a middle-aged man wearing red robes. He is one of the 72 Red Guards under the command of the Southern Demon Sea Scarlet Sovereign, Chi Mei. Ken Feng's eyes were filled with shock. Rumor has it that even though this person's cultivation base is only at the Void Inquiry stage, he is already unrivaled among Void Inquiry stage experts. He can even fight against ordinary Void Pierce stage experts. The burly man surnamed Zhu was filled with fear. This person is ruthless and ruthless. Every time he attacks, he will definitely take someone's life. The reason why he didn't kill us is because of the old Yuan sovereign's order. Old Man Fong and Old Man Lei said with a bitter smile. 4 Void Inquiry stage experts and 28 Void Glimpse stage experts were defeated by Chi Mei alone. Get lost. A disdainful sneer resounded from the cave dwelling. It was unknown what kind of divine ability the voice contained. As soon as it spread, the air immediately began to sizzle and burn. As soon as Ken Fong and the others heard the voice, they immediately let out a miserable cry and coughed out blood. After being shaken by the demonic voice, everyone's foundation was injured. Without tens of years of recuperation, it was impossible for them to fully recover. Chi Mei, don't you dare go too far. I'm not your match. There will naturally be someone who can defeat you like a dog and seize your cave dwelling to avenge us. Ken Feng gritted his teeth and said angrily. According to his character, he would never dare to fight a strong opponent head-on. However, now that his foundation was injured by Chi Mei, his anger gave him some courage and he did not leave immediately. Instead, he wanted to stay here and watch Chi Mei make a fool out of himself. The person who could defeat Chi Mei like a dog was naturally Ning Fan. From Ken Feng's point of view, Ning Fan was so greedy that he would definitely come to the 497th floor to seize the cave dwelling on this floor after he seized the previous one. At first, he hated Ning Fan for being greedy. Now, however, he could not wait for Ning Fan to come earlier and take care of this arrogant Chi Mei. Oh. You said that someone from the upper floors will come to the lower floors and defeat me like a dog? Chi Mei smiled sinisterly. With his strength, he could have gone to the lower floors and fought against the Void Pierce stage old monsters. However, he chose to occupy the upper floors instead. It was because there were only a few Void Glimpse stage and Void Inquiry stage experts in the upper floors. To him, he could easily defeat them without any risk. Even though Chi Mei was arrogant, he did not like to take risks. He knew that he did not have the strength to contest for the upper floors. Hence, there was no difference between the 101st floor and the 497th floor to him. The reason why he seized the cave dwelling on this floor was because the cultivators on this floor were weak. However, Ken Feng said that there would be someone from the upper floors who would come down and defeat him like a dog. Of course, he did not believe such words at all. Humph. Don't doubt me. Bai Mu will be here soon. His strength is even higher than yours. Bai Mu has taken all the cave dwellings on the upper 3 floors. He will certainly seize your cave dwelling. Do you know that all of us were defeated by him and were chased to the lower floors by him? The burly man surnamed Zhu added. Bai Mu? Bai Mu of the Light Feather Clan? Are you saying that this Bai Mu can defeat me? Chi Mei laughed disdainfully. If Ken Feng had mentioned the names of other old monsters, Chi Mei might have taken him seriously. As for Bai Mu, he was just a cripple from the Light Feather Clan. He was not afraid of him at all. If it wasn't for the fact that killing is forbidden in the Immortal Ascension Tower, I would only need 3 breaths to kill Bai Mu. Chi Mei sneered. Just as these words left his mouth, a vast and boundless aura suddenly descended upon the entire 497th level of the heavenly abode. Boundless. This aura force was neither sharp nor oppressive. However, it was as boundless as the earth and as vast as the heavens, giving people a sense of oppression that came from the bottom of their hearts. This was the aura force of the Great Tao. Whose aura force is so terrifying? Chi Mei was shocked. Even Ken Feng and the others who were present were shocked. The aura force of the Great Tao. How could an ordinary person integrate the Great Tao into their body and merge their aura force with the Great Tao? It's Bai Mu. Ken Feng was the first to exclaim. A ray of traveling light approached them from afar. After a while, the traveling light dispersed and a white-robed young man walked out from it. It was none other than Ning Fan. At this moment, Ning Fan's eyes were glowing with a faint Tao light of life and death. However, he gave off an aura force that no one dared to look at directly. It wasn't a murderous aura, nor was it a ferocious might. It was just the might of the Tao, but it was enough to make anyone with a weaker cultivation feel terrified. He is Bai Mu. Is he really Bai Mu? How is this possible? The trash of the White Feather Clan actually cultivated the life and death Tao light. That's the life and death Tao light. In the Yao realm, there are only 3 loose demons who can cultivate this light. As a Crimson Guard of the Crimson Hall, I have seen the old Crimson Emperor once. The old Crimson Emperor had the cultivation of a loose demon, and his comprehension of life and death had already reached the end. In his eyes, there was this life and death Tao light. The old Crimson Sovereign once said that in the light of life and death, a ray of light can destroy a void-pierce stage expert. This Bai Mu can cultivate the life and death Tao light. Just a wisp of light is enough to kill me. How can I be his match? Chi Mei could not help but feel regret. He had just looked down on Bai Mu and said that he could kill Bai Mu in 3 breaths. Now, it seemed like his words were really ridiculous. I want to enter this abode to have a look. I don't want anyone to disturb me. Those who are not involved, leave. Ning Fan said indifferently and walked towards the abode of the giant tree step by step. His eyes indifferently swept across Can Feng, the burly man surnamed Zhu, Old Men Feng and Old Men Lei, and the Void Glimpse stage experts. Eventually, it was as if his eyes had penetrated the abode and landed on Chi Mei who was inside. The moment Ning Fan's eyes landed on them, all of them began to sweat profusely. It was as if Ning Fan could kill Void Glimpse stage and Void Inquiry stage experts with just a gaze and a single thought. He could decide life and death with just a single thought. Fellow Taoist Bai, please enter the abode. I don't want this abode anymore. Chi Mei gritted his teeth and quickly walked out of the abode. He lowered his head and cupped his fists at Ning Fan, feeling uneasy. Ning Fan, however, did not care about Chi Mei at all and walked straight into the abode. Chi Mei could not help but let out a sigh of relief. It seemed like Ning Fan did not have the intention to hold him accountable. Can Feng and the others, on the other hand, were greatly disappointed. They originally wanted to see Ning Fan teach Chi Mei a lesson. Now, it seemed like Ning Fan did not have the intention to hurt them. At this moment, Ning Fan's eyes were filled with Tao light and his mind was cultivating Tao sense. At this moment, if it was possible, he did not want to attack Chi Mei. He just wanted to look at the stone walls of the abode and comprehend life and death. Just as Ning Fan was about to step into the abode, he suddenly stopped and turned around. The Tao light in his eyes dimmed slightly and a cold light flashed. At the moment when the cold light rose, Chi Mei's heart was filled with fear. He wondered if Ning Fan was going to attack him. Just as he was guessing, 4 rays of traveling light whistled and flew down from the 498th floor. They arrived in front of the abode on the 497th floor and landed on the ground. I'm the clan leader of the Black Crane clan. Today, I'm here to teach Bai Mu a lesson. Those who have nothing to do with this, get lost. All 4 of them were void-pierced stage old monsters. Among them, there was even the clan leader of the Black Crane clan who was infamous among the void-pierced stage experts. The 4 of them came in a threatening manner and they came for Ning Fan. 4 void-pierced stage old monsters. Moreover, the clan leader of the Black Crane clan is also among them. These people want to find trouble with Bai Mu. How can Bai Mu be a match for them? Some Void Glimpse stage experts thought. Ordinary Void Glimpse stage experts naturally did not know how powerful the Tao light of life and death was. Can Feng, Chi Mei, the burly man surnamed Zhu and Old Men Feng and Lei stared at the clan leader and his group as if they were looking at idiots. They knew very well how powerful the Tao light of life and death was. It was a great ability that only the 3 rogue demons of the demon world could cultivate. No matter how powerful the clan leader of the Black Crane clan was, could he resist such a great ability? From their point of view, the clan leader and his group were obviously here to deliver themselves to Ning Fan. Are you the clan leader of the Black Crane clan? I'm not interested in the grudges between the Black Crane clan and the Light Feather clan. I'll give you 3 breaths to leave now and I'll let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, I won't show any mercy. Ning Fan's expression was indifferent. The Black Crane clan had massacred the Light Feather clan. However, Ning Fan was not a member of the Light Feather clan. Thus, he naturally did not hate the Black Crane clan. He had promised Tan Tianyen that he would not kill anyone in the Immortal Ascension Tower. However, it did not mean that he could tolerate the existence of enemies. Ken Fong and the others only fought each other because of a small matter like fighting for the abode. They were not mortal enemies. The leader of the Black Crane clan was not a kind person. Even though this person was weak, Ning Fan would certainly not let him live if he is an enemy. Humph. Boasting shamelessly. Showing no mercy. I would like to see how a mere Void Inquiry stage cultivator like you is going to show no mercy to 4 Void Pierce stage experts. Kill him. The clan leader of the Black Crane clan sneered. Together with his 3 Void Pierce stage friends, they took out their natal treasures and attacked Ning Fan. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He had given the clan leader 3 breaths to save his life. However, they used their actions to show that their hostility towards him could not be resolved. The grudges between the 2 clans had nothing to do with Ning Fan. However, the enemies who came to attack him must die. My left eye sees life and my right eye sees death. Ning Fan's eyes suddenly flashed with the Tao light of life and death. That ray of light split into 2. The white light gathered in his left eye while the black light gathered in his right eye. A ray of black Tao light shot out from his right eye and swept across the 4 natal treasures that were hovering in the sky. The 4 magic treasures began to decay and lose their power. In the end, they turned into ashes in an instant and scattered on the ground. That black light then swept across the 3 Void Pierce stage old monsters. The 3 Void Pierce stage old monsters were the helpers that the clan leader invited. As soon as they were swept by the Tao light of death, their souls immediately left their bodies. Life and death. Tao light of life and death. This Bai Mu has actually cultivated the Tao light of life and death. How is he in existence that we can fight against? Black Crane, you've made me suffer. This old man and you are irreconcilable. Such a powerful enemy. Such a powerful enemy. It's too late for me to regret. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. The 3 of them had different expressions on their faces. The moment they were swept by the Tao light of death, all of them glared at the clan leader with resentment. Then, they spurted out blood essence from their mouths and turned into rays of light, fleeing to the upper floors with all their might. At this moment, they only wanted to escape from the Immortal Ascension Tower. As for chasing after Ning Fan, it was something that they would never dare to think about in this lifetime. However, it was a little too late for the 3 of them to retreat now. The 3 of them were fleeing with all their might. They did not notice that their physical bodies were aging rapidly and beginning to turn into ashes bit by bit. Countless black Tao patterns appeared on their bodies. It was the power of the Tao of death. Before the 3 of them could get far, their physical bodies had already turned into ashes. Their demon souls were destroyed as well. They died with hatred. This was the power of the Tao light of death. Under the power of the great Tao, the weak could hardly escape death. How? How is this possible? You're not Bai Mu. You're definitely not Bai Mu. Bai Mu isn't as powerful as you are. He's just a disciple, a piece of trash. The Black Crane clan master seemed to have gone mad as he looked at everything before him in disbelief. After that, he suddenly bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence before turning around and fleeing without any regard for his life. Ning Fan did not want to find out what kind of grudge he had with Bai Mu that made him want to kill Ning Fan no matter what. There was only one thing Ning Fan wanted to do when the enemy came knocking on his door, and that was to send the enemy to his death. A beam of white light shot out from his left eye and swept across the deranged Black Crane clan leader. The Black Crane clan's leader suddenly shuddered as countless white Tao patterns appeared. The moment the white Tao pattern appeared, the Black Crane clan leader's cultivation level plummeted, and his appearance gradually became younger. This youthfulness was not an increase in lifespan, but an illusion of magic. However, his cultivation had fallen along with his youthful appearance. Void Glimpse Stage, Peak Divine Transformation Realm, Late Divine Transformation Realm, Mid Divine Transformation Realm, Early Divine Transformation Realm. Peak Nascent Soul Realm. Late Nascent Soul Realm, Mid Nascent Soul Realm, Early Nascent Soul Realm, Peak Golden Core Realm. To his horror, the Black Crane clan leader realized that he could not resist the decline of his cultivation level at all. After his cultivation level fell to the Gold Core Realm, the Black Crane clan leader shed his human form and turned into a half-human half-crane demonic appearance. After his cultivation level fell to the Harmonious Spirit Realm and Vein Opening Realm, he completely turned into a black crane with weak demonic power. The white light on the black crane's body suddenly split apart. It let out a miserable shriek and fell to the ground from the sky. As soon as its head touched the ground, it died. The scene was extremely strange. This is the power of the Tao light of life and death. Chi Mei's eyes were filled with astonishment. Ning Fan had just shot out 2 rays of black and white light from his eyes and 4 Void Pure stage experts had died mysteriously. This scene was just too terrifying. Ning Fan, however, did not care about their shocked expressions. He just waved his hand and kept the storage pouches of the Black Crane clan leader and the others. He did not pay too much attention to their storage pouches. The only thing that made him slightly satisfied was the 9 pieces of star stones that were lying quietly in the Black Crane clan leader's storage pouch. These 9 star stones were seized from the Light Feather clan. They had the magical effect of increasing 1 star power. If he has the time, Ning Fan would absorb the power of 10 star stones to increase the number of natal stars. Now, he still had something important to do. He needed to study all the Tao insights on the stone walls of the Immortal Ascension Tower. Ning Fan was quite satisfied with the power of the Tao light of life and death. If the number of Tao marks of life and death on his primordial spirit reaches a certain level, this light would not only be able to kill Void Pure stage experts but also Void Fragmentation Realm experts. How could the great ability of a rogue demon be that simple? Ning Fan walked into the cave dwelling of the giant tree step by step. Chi Mei and the others did not even dare to breathe too loudly as they watched Ning Fan leave. After entering the cave dwelling, he suddenly transmitted his voice to them. I have no interest in occupying the cave dwellings in the upper 3 floors. You guys can do whatever you want with them. Air. Ken Feng, the burly man surnamed Zhu and old men Feng and Lei were speechless. Ning Fan snatched the cave dwelling but did not occupy it. Could it be that he was just snatching it for fun? This was not something they could care about. All they knew was that since Ning Fan did not want to occupy the cave dwelling, it would be their turn to fight for it. Ken Feng looked at the group of Void Glimpse stage experts beside him and sneered. Then, he endured his injuries and flew to the upper floors. Without a powerful enemy like Ning Fan, ordinary Void Glimpse stage experts would no longer be allies but competitors. Forget it. I will also go to the upper floors to fight for the cave dwellings. Chi Mei sighed and flew to the upper floors. The eyes of the burly man surnamed Zhu, old men Feng and Lei flashed and they flew to the upper floors. Very soon, Ning Fan was the only one left in this place. He entered the cave dwelling and peeked at the stone walls. Then, he left and went to the next floor. As he went down the floors, he either subdued those who fought for the cave dwellings or sent them flying with a wave of his sleeve. Ning Fan had already walked through the first 100 floors. No one could stop him. Void Glimpse stage, Void Inquiry stage, Void Pure stage, Absolute Void stage. Each of the old monsters was no match for Ning Fan. After inspecting the cave dwellings, Ning Fan would often return them to them as he did not want to chase the other cultivators to the lower floors. That would be too troublesome. In the cave dwelling on the 496th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower. A Void Pure stage old man whose head was bleeding sighed continuously. He was the owner of this cave dwelling but he was defeated by Ning Fan with a single move. I didn't expect Bai Mu to be so powerful. Initially, I wanted to teach him a lesson but he defeated me instead. In the cave dwelling on the 442nd floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower. A void-pierced stage female cultivator was hugging her knees and shivering in a corner of the wall. So scary. Bai Mu is really scary. I'm not his match. He defeated me with a single move. Luckily, this is the Immortal Ascension Tower. Otherwise, he will definitely sully my purity. This female cultivator did not even bother to look at her own body. She was just a void-pierced stage cultivator. Yet, she was actually worried that Ning Fan would pluck her. It was really ridiculous. To the current Ning Fan, a human cauldron whose cultivation base had not reached the void fragmentation realm would not be of much help to him. Even if this woman pays him 100 million immortal jade, Ning Fan would not be tempted. In the cave dwelling on the 409th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower. A burly sword cultivator with an absolute void stage cultivation base was holding a broken sword and complaining incessantly. He had set up a formation inside the cave dwelling. When Ning Fan arrived, he wanted to launch a sneak attack on him and snatch a few treasures. Unfortunately, Ning Fan crushed his flying sword with just a finger and severely injured him. Not only did he fail to snatch his treasures, he was also robbed clean by Ning Fan. His storage pouch and his purple-grade fishing rod were all taken away by Ning Fan. How unlucky. How could I be so blind as to provoke such a person, Bai Mu, Bai Mu? This person is clearly extremely powerful. He's not as weak as the rumors say. All the way down, Ning Fan passed through each of the abodes at an extremely fast speed. No one could stop his footsteps. 400 floors, 300 floors, 200 floors, 100 floors. When he entered the first 100 levels of the cave abode, there were already 400 life and death Dao patterns on his Yuan Shen. He had seen the Dao comprehensions of 400 Yuani ancestors and understood the Dao of life and death of 400 of them. The Dao light of life and death in his eyes was already rather resplendent. Under this light, even a Shatter Realm cultivator would find it difficult to survive. Half a day had passed since the start of the grand competition. At this moment, it was night time in the outside world. Immortal Ascension Pagoda, 100th level cave abode. The one in charge of the cave dwelling was none other than the great elder of Yuan Palace, Zhou Nan. The reason why Zhou Nan entered the Immortal Ascension Tower this time was not to compete for benefits but to test Ning Fan. The reason why he chose this spot to wait for Ning Fan was because he had a premonition that Ning Fan would come to this floor. If Ning Fan's strength was not enough to reach this floor, he would not be worthy of Miss Zixin's heart. Of course, Zhou Nan did not know why Tan Zixin valued Ning Fan so much. He had the same thought as the current Yuan Emperor. They both thought that Tan Zixin had fallen in love with Ning Fan, sigh. Miss could have fallen in love with anyone but this Bai Mu. Miss doesn't seem to know how bad Bai Mu's reputation is. If Miss knows that Bai Mu can even have sex with demonic beasts that have yet to fully transform, she will definitely be sad. This Bai Mu's behavior is really shameless. While Zhou Nan was pondering, he suddenly felt a boundless Dao power coming towards him. In the aura of the Dao power, a white-robed young man was approaching the 100th level of the cave abode. Zhou Nan was so shocked that his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Dao light of life and death. How is this possible? Is he really Bai Mu? Chapter 641. As Ning Fan got closer to him, the astonishment in Zhou Nan's eyes grew stronger. Actually, Zhou Nan had also thought that Miss Zixin, who had never been interested in men, would suddenly pay attention to Ning Fan because Ning Fan was different from ordinary people. However, he did not expect that Ning Fan had actually cultivated the Dao light of life and death. Currently, there were only 3 robed demon old monsters in the entire demon world who had cultivated this light. Ning Fan was the 4th one. Even though Ning Fan's current cultivation base was just at the void inquiry stage, Zhou Nan did not dare to underestimate him. A cultivator who could cultivate the ability of a rogue demon would certainly have a bright future. Miss Zixin's eyes are really sharp. Everyone only knows that Bai Mu is a puppet cultivator, but they didn't know that he is actually so amazing. He actually cultivated the Tao light of life and death. Zhou Nan stood up and walked out of the abode step by step, and his expression carried a hint of kindness. "Little friend, are you here to take the cave residence from me?" What Zhou Nan meant was to use the cave residence as a bait to test Ning Fan's ability. He was holding a treasure which was personally refined by Tan Zixin. Its grade was not high, but it could emit a trace of yin and yang power. Therefore, it was quite extraordinary. It was the magic treasure that Tan Zixin gave him. She wanted to use it to test if Ning Fan had a way to break the formation. Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. He did not expect that the person who occupied the 100th floor of the cave residence would be the dignified great elder of the Origin Palace, Zhou Nan. In Ning Fan's opinion, Zhou Nan had a cultivation base at the 4th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. He was totally capable of fighting for the top 20 caverns and fighting for the essence clear pill. However, Zhou Nan avoided the fight and chose to occupy the 100th floor instead. It was really unreasonable. Perhaps, Zhou Nan was just too embarrassed to fight for the top 20 caverns with his peers since he was the great elder of the Origin Palace. Excluding Ning Fan and Zhou Nan, there were a total of 47 Void Fragmentation Realm experts who entered the Immortal Ascension Tower this time. Ning Fan was already mentally prepared that he would definitely have to fight against Void Fragmentation Realm old monsters if he enters the first 100 floors of the cave residence. Thus, he was not too surprised at this moment. "I just want to enter the cave residence to have a look. I'll leave after that. I won't fight for it. I wonder if the Great Elder can do me a favor and let me in to have a look." Facing Zhou Nan, Ning Fan, of course, would not be so arrogant as to attack him. Zhou Nan was startled, then he smiled and said, "It's just a cave abode, it's naturally very easy. If little friend is willing to receive an attack from this old man, not to mention letting little friend take a look at this cave abode, even giving this cave abode to little friend is not impossible. Of course, you don't have to worry. This attack of mine only has void inquiry stage strength. Even if you can't withstand it, you won't be hurt too badly. Hee. Little friend, are you willing to receive a void inquiry stage attack from me?" Ning Fan's eyes flickered, and after a moment, he nodded and said, "Good. Great Elder, please make a move." If it was just a void inquiry stage attack from Zhou Nan, it would naturally not be difficult at all. If Zhou Nan harbored ill intentions and had ulterior motives, Ning Fan also had the means to protect himself. Thus, it was impossible for him to be injured by Zhou Nan. He was already somewhat certain that the reason why Zhou Nan appeared in the 100th floor of the abode was probably because of him. However, Ning Fan didn't know what Zhou Nan's intention was. Was it good or bad? Zhou Nan nodded with a smile and took out a flying sword that was half red and half blue from his sleeve. This sword was called the Dual Extremities Sword. It was a mid-grade mortal void flying sword. This sword could activate a trace of the power of yin and yang to attack the enemy. Besides, the more the two extremes of yin and yang were separated, the stronger the power of this sword would be. Little friend, be careful. This sword has a trace of yin and yang power. Even though it is a mid-grade mortal void treasure, you mustn't underestimate it. Activate. Zhou Nan suppressed his magic power and raised his hand to summon the sword. He did not lie. The destructive power of this sword was only at the void inquiry stage. Ning Fan's eyes flashed and he looked at the flying sword. As soon as the flying sword was summoned, it immediately split into two. One of them was red while the other was blue. Both of them slashed at Ning Fan from two completely different directions. With Ning Fan's cultivation base, it was naturally impossible for him to withstand a void inquiry stage attack. This flying sword isn't weak. The separation of the two extremes of yin and yang can actually increase the power of the sword. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Fan reached out both of his hands and directly grabbed the two flying swords. That move of his really frightened Zhou Nan. One should know that even though the grade of the dual extremities sword was not high, it was extremely sharp. Ordinary cultivators at the third level of the Golden Body realm would not dare to casually catch it with their hands. If one's physical body was not strong enough, their palms would most likely be cut off by the flying sword if they try to catch the swords with their hands. "Little friend, be careful," Zhou Nan exclaimed. His original intention was not to hurt Ning Fan. He was just testing him. Just as he was about to save Ning Fan, his eyes suddenly widened. The moment Ning Fan stretched out both of his hands, the power of the flying swords that were originally unparalleled immediately decreased greatly. The reason why their power was greatly reduced was because Ning Fan managed to make the yin and yang of the swords return to harmony by just a casual move. Since the yin and yang could no longer be separated into two extremes, the power of the swords naturally decreased. After their power was greatly reduced, the two flying swords that were like dragons were easily caught by Ning Fan and combined into one flying sword. "I have already withstood Great Elder's attack. I wonder if I can enter your cave residence to have a look." Ning Fan tossed the flying sword back and looked at Zhou Nan meaningfully. "Of course you can. Little friend, please come in and have a look." Zhou Nan heaved a sigh of relief. He thought that Ning Fan's means were really not weak. He was worried about Ning Fan for nothing. However, looking at Ning Fan's meaningful expression, could it be that he had already seen through the test this time? Zhou Nan kept the dual extremities sword and recorded what happened just now into the shadow-bearing jade slip. Then, he fell into deep thought. "I wonder if Miss Zixin will be satisfied with the result of this test." Speaking of which, the reason why Bai Mu didn't occupy the cave residence is probably because he wants to enter it to have a look. I suppose he wants to see the stone carvings inside. This young man has cultivated the Tao light of life and death. From today onwards, his name will certainly be known throughout the demon world. It is said that the Tao enlightenment of life and death of the previous Yuan Qi ancestors are hidden inside the stone carvings. Could it be that this young man came for this Tao enlightenment? Unfortunately, without the primitive Emperor Jade in hand, he won't be able to see the Tao enlightenment of the stone carvings. Zhou Nan shook his head with a smile and inadvertently scanned the interior of the cave residence with his spirit sense. What he saw was incredible. He was completely petrified. He saw that Ning Fan had already embedded the golden ancient jade into the groove of the stone wall. His palm was placed on the stone wall and he was carefully comprehending it. The primitive Emperor Jade. This jade is definitely the primitive Emperor Jade. It has always been in the hands of the previous primitive emperor. Why is it in this young man's hands? That's right. The previous primitive emperor must have lent this jade to this young man. However, I don't know how Bai Mu got to know the previous primitive emperor and what is his relationship with him. How did he manage to borrow the primitive emperor jade? You should know that there were many experts in the palace who wanted to use the jade to comprehend the Tao. However, all of them were rejected by the previous primitive emperor. The previous primitive emperor said, "Those who aren't my eyes don't have the qualifications to comprehend life and death." Could it be that this Bai Mu is the person whom the previous primitive emperor likes? Of course, Zhou Nan would not think that Ning Fan stole or snatched this jade. Who was the previous primitive emperor? He was the best in the demon world. Who could snatch or steal from his hands? Since Ning Fan came with the jade, he naturally gained the favor of the previous primitive emperor. Zhou Nan's impression of Ning Fan changed once again. A person who could make the previous primitive emperor look at him in a different light was certainly not an ordinary person. Zhou Nan must not neglect him. After 10 breaths, Ning Fan kept the ancient jade. After a moment of silence, he walked out of the cave residence. There was one more Tao mark of life and death on his primordial spirit. As soon as he saw Ning Fan walking out, Zhou Nan took half a step forward, cupped his fists and said apologetically. There's one thing that I need to apologize to fellow Daoist. Previously, I was ordered by my mistress to test you with the dual extremities sword. I hope fellow Daoist can forgive me for offending you. However, fellow Daoist can be at ease. My mistress has always been kind and generous. She definitely won't have any evil intentions towards you. Zhou Nan guessed that Ning Fan had most likely seen through the test. In order to avoid any misunderstandings, it was better for him to explain himself. Since Great Elder has said so, I naturally won't take this matter to heart. I just hope that such a test won't happen again. Ning Fan had seen through Zhou Nan's test. He also knew that the person who refined the dual extremities sword was Tan Zixin. He had met Tan Zixin once before and he had peeked into her mind. She was not a scheming and vicious person. This test probably didn't have any evil intentions. Moreover, for the sake of the previous primitive emperor, he certainly wouldn't take this matter to heart. However, it was better to avoid such tests. No one liked to be tested or schemed against by others. I still need to go to the lower level of the cave residence. I'll take my leave first. Ning Fan cupped his fists at Zhou Nan. Then, he turned into a ray of light and flew towards the lower level of the cave residence. Oh. Does he really not want this cave residence? Zhou Nan was stunned. From Zhou Nan's point of view, even though Ning Fan had cultivated the Tao light of life and death, his cultivation base was still too low after all. At most, he could only use the Tao light of life and death to sweep across the void pierce stage experts. With such strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to snatch a cave residence in the 400th floor and above. However, in the first 100 floors, he could forget about snatching any cave residence. Currently, the first 100 floors were all occupied by Void Fragmentation Realm and Grand Void Stage experts. Without a cultivation base at the Grand Void Stage, it was impossible for them to compete for supremacy in this place. Could it be that this young man still has some trump cards? Is he confident that he can defeat a Grand Void Stage expert? As Zhou Nan thought about it, his curiosity was piqued. In a flash, he flew towards the 99th floor and quietly followed behind Ning Fan. In the 99th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower. The person guarding this cave residence was an old man in black robes who was at the Grand Void Stage. He was from the Eastern Demon Sea and he was one of the 12 guardians of the Black Emperor of the Fawn Wolf Palace. This person was sitting cross-legged inside the cave residence. His eyes were ferocious and his right fingernails were stained with blood. Previously, there were a total of 4 Grand Void Stage experts and 7 Grand Void Stage experts who wanted to snatch this cave residence from him. However, all of them were defeated by him using the Broken Phase Art. The Broken Phase Art was one of the best escape techniques of the Fawn Wolf Palace. Coupled with his physical body which was close to the Nirvana realm, he rarely had any opponents below the Void Fragmentation realm. The black-robed old man licked the blood between his fingers with a gloomy smile. If it wasn't because of the old primitive emperor's order not to kill innocent people in the Immortal Ascension Tower, he would have already killed a few people who tried to snatch his cave residence. Oh. Is there still someone else who wants to steal my cave residence? Hee hee. Void Inquiry Stage Cultivator. How reckless. The black-robed old man's body suddenly turned into a broken phase and shattered one after another. At the next moment, his figure strangely appeared outside the cave residence. The so-called broken phase art was not about leaving an afterimage when one moved quickly. Instead, it was about separating one's physical body, allowing it to travel across space and appear in another place. This technique was used for sneak attacks. Naturally, it was impossible to guard against it. It was difficult for the person being attacked to determine where the user of the technique would appear. Are you trying to snatch my cave residence? The black-robed old man looked at Ning Fan, who was approaching him step by step, and laughed loudly. Then, he unleashed his unrivaled origin-returning realm cultivation base and pressed it down on Ning Fan. His aura force covered the sky and earth, stirring up a strong gust of wind. All of a sudden, smoke and dust rose in all directions. Ning Fan walked among the smoke and dust. The smoke and dust immediately split into two and made way for him. "I do want to enter the cave residence to have a look." His tone was indifferent. Then, his battle intent gradually rose to the sky. When he reached the 99th floor of the cave residence, it was already impossible for him to conceal his cultivation base anymore. If he only uses his Void Inquiry stage cultivation base, it would be impossible for him to defeat cultivators at the first, second or third destruction realm. Even if he reveals his Void Fragmentation realm chi, he would not have much chance of winning against cultivators at the fourth or fifth destruction realm. As such, the only thing he could do was to fight them with all his might. No matter what, he wanted to gain the Tao insights of the first 100 floors of the cave residence and make the number of Tao marks of life and death on his primordial spirit exceed 500. You seem to have some ability to resist my aura force. However, you are just a Void Inquiry stage ant after all. In my eyes, you are just too weak. I don't need half a breath to defeat you. As soon as the black-robed old man finished speaking, he smirked and took a step forward. Suddenly, his body turned into pieces and disappeared. There was not a trace of chi nor a trace of his body. His body just vanished into thin air just like that. He did not dare to take Ning Fan's life because of the old Yuan Emperor's order. However, he intended to severely injure Ning Fan with a single blow. He was a wolf. A wolf. His nature was cruel. Great Elder Zhou Nan, who had followed them secretly, saw the black-robed old man using the broken phase art of the Wolf Fong Palace. His eyes immediately turned cold. Not good. This broken phase art is extremely powerful. Given his primordial returning realm cultivation base, there are few people below the Void Fragmentation realm who can defend against his sneak attack. Bai Mu will most likely be severely injured by his attack. Bai Mu is valued by the old Yuan Emperor and Miss Xian. No matter what, I must save him. Just as Zhou Nan was about to help Ning Fan, his hand suddenly stiffened in midair. His eyes were filled with astonishment. At this moment, Ning Fan's body suddenly gave off an extremely powerful aura force. His cultivation base had obviously reached the first heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation realm. At this moment, Ning Fan's eyes were as cold as water. All of a sudden, he reached out his right hand and made a grabbing motion in the air. On the right side, where there was no one, the black-robed old man's miserable figure was pulled out by Ning Fan. Ning Fan pressed the back of the black-robed old man's head with his index and middle fingers, while his other three fingers gripped the old man's neck tightly, making him unable to struggle at all. Then, his body suddenly leaned forward and forcefully pressed the old man's head to the ground in front of him, smashing it. You're actually a Void Fragmentation realm old monster. I was wrong. I shouldn't have harbored evil intentions towards Senior. Please forgive me, Senior. The black-robed old man's body trembled. In Ning Fan's hands, he was like a little chick without any strength to struggle at all. He begged in panic. However, it was already too late. With a loud bang, the ground within the 99th floor of the heavenly dwelling was completely shattered. The entire heavenly dwelling was already on the verge of collapsing. Ning Fan loosened his grip and stood up. He stepped on the ruins on the ground and walked into the cave dwelling in front of him. He no longer looked at the black-robed old man. At this moment, the black-robed old man's skull was completely shattered. His face was deformed and he was coughing out blood as he fainted on the ground. His head was deeply pressed into the ground by Ning Fan like an ostrich. His sea of consciousness was completely shattered. It was unknown whether he could reform his sea of consciousness and cultivate his spirit sense again. If it wasn't for the fact that he was extremely heavy-handed, Ning Fan wouldn't have destroyed his sea of consciousness. The destruction of a cultivator's sea of consciousness was like gouging out a mortal's eyes. This person only had himself to blame for everything. Is this Bai Mu's true strength? This young man really hid his strength well. With his strength, I'm afraid even an ordinary First Destruction Realm cultivator wouldn't be a match for him. There are a total of 29 cultivators at the First Destruction Realm and above this time. In other words, this young man can at least get to the 30th floor of the cave dwelling. Bai Mu of the Light Feather Clan. Everyone has underestimated this young man. Void Fragmentation Realm Cultivation Base, Nirvana Realm Physical Body, Tao Light of Life and Death. After this grand competition, this young man's name will certainly resound in the demon world. If we can recruit this young man and nurture him carefully, he will certainly become a rogue demon in tens of thousands of years. The foresight of the old Yuan Emperor and the young lady is really sharp. After tens of breaths, Ning Fan walked out of the cave dwelling. He looked at Zhou Nan's direction and flew towards the 98th floor without saying a word. Zhou Nan sighed. In a flash, he continued to follow Ning Fan. He wanted to see with his own eyes whether Ning Fan could get the first 30 floors of the cave dwelling. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.